Lawmakers, rightfully so, only respond to what voters want. Their constituents are the people that actually go to the polls and vote for them. There's a reason why, criminal justice looks the way it does in the United States, and it's because the demographic of people voting are not the demographic of people that are most often impacted by the criminal justice system. And I think that, when we say like voting is the least we can do, I mean, young people don't do it. They don't vote. And if you're not willing to vote,
We are live as it happens. Hello. Here we are in scenic. What city is this?
Washington, D.C.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. We just had Congressman Ro Khanna on talking about, a number of things, but mostly, I think, how to get people engaged. Vote Dems, ideally. I'm sure we all have somewhat aligned views on that. But to kick things off, I wanted to talk about something that, at the very least, I know you and I have worked on. Progressive Victory, the fine people who set all this up. They're a canvassing org that we've thrown people towards as streamers, and as a result of that, thousands of folks have gone on out and canvassed. It's given me a lot of hope for, I guess, live streaming or new media as a mechanism for political onboarding. I was just curious what everyone's thoughts were on that with regards to the new path forward.
You guys tell me, because I don't know what the young people are up to nowadays.
I feel like the
Vaping, yeah, I do know. I have seen that.
I feel like the two important things for people are, if you're in the online content space, the rhetoric about Dems and Republicans being the same has to stop. It's absolutely patently ridiculous. If you look at voting records, if you look at stance on issues, Democrats and Republicans stand in stark opposition to one another. So I think it's important to make it seem like voting for Democrats are a worthwhile proposition, if for no other reason because of the composition of the Supreme Court. And then I think the second thing that's important is to make it seem like there is actual change that can happen if you engage with the system. And I feel like too many people are so quick to throw in the towel and say it doesn't matter who you vote for, it doesn't matter what happens, it's all politicians, it's all the same game at the end of the day, everybody has corporate buyers and lobbyists and blah, blah, blah. And I think at the end of the day, when you consume enough of that media, you feel like, why does it matter? Why engage at all? And that's really frustrating to me to say those two things. On a third thing too, it's hard to encourage this as a streamer because we are so national or international with our outreach. Getting more engaged at the local level, it's so easy to get engaged and see real, tangible results from your actions than trying to engage at the national level where it's like I threw $5 at AOC and now I don't really know, what my impact is beyond that,
Would you rather trust your goods with a goblin?
Yeah, certainly. I think that it's very important to make sure that your political engagement does not end with just voting, right? Voting for Democrats is essentially, it's essential, right? You have to do that. You have to vote for Democrats in general elections. I do believe that. But at the same time, that is one of the least, it's the least you can do with political engagement, right? Get involved locally, as you said. Get involved with your local DSA, because if it's just about electoralism, you're going to feel a little bit alienated, right? Because you're not Biden. For most young people, he doesn't represent them. He doesn't necessarily connect with them. And that's why voting, I would imagine, or I would advocate, should be something that you do, but not necessarily where your political engagement ends.
I agree with that, but I would say that voting is the most important thing, and almost nothing else matters if you're not willing to vote. There's way too much online activism. It happens in the streamer world, it happens in the YouTube world, it happens on Twitter. You can tweet all you want, but at the end of the day, lawmakers, rightfully so, only respond to what voters want. Their constituents are the people that actually go to the polls and vote for them. There's a reason why, criminal justice looks the way it does in the United States, and it's because the demographic of people voting are not the demographic of people that are most often impacted by the criminal justice system. And I think that, when we say voting is the least we can do, I mean, young people don't do it. They don't vote. And if you're not willing to vote, nobody's going to, and they shouldn't listen to you, because at the end of the day, a politician's job is to get reelected. And if you're not going to go out and actually show up and vote for said politicians, why should they ever listen to anything you have to say?
Yeah, and the NLRB and the FTC right now are probably the best cases to make that point, that politics and elections actually do matter. Because if you're somebody who says, well, actually, the only thing I care about is, organizing Starbucks or organizing Amazon or supporting the UAW, if you don't have a National Labor Relations Board that is supportive of labor rights, it's going to be a much tougher climb. And even when it comes to antitrust and monopoly, that touches everything. The inability of people to make any significant revenue on podcasts is all about antitrust. The inability of people to kind of speak freely is related to the power of Silicon Valley that is now being contested by Joe Biden's FTC because he won and because he appointed people like Lena Khan. I think people like trash vote blue no matter who all the time, but there's actually, if you're on in the progressive wing of the party, I've often seen that kind of used in reverse, in that, let's say you get John Fetterman across the finish line in Pennsylvania, he won a primary against a right-wing Democrat. Because vote blue no matter who exists, all of the kind of conservative Democrats in the state were like, all right, I'm voting for John Fetterman.
Yeah.
And actually, AOC gets knocked a lot for that mama bear comment that she made about Pelosi.
Well, it was true.
She said that at the time where it looked like Bernie was going to seize the nomination. And so what she was trying to do is say, look, Bernie's going to be the nominee.
Right.
Pelosi is supportive of whoever the nominee is. Everyone else then needs to get behind Bernie. And you kind of use that vote blue no matter who momentum to say, look, you don't have a choice. He's the blue. So guess what? Vote for him. You're a socialist now.
100%. I mean, and by the true part, I just meant to say that, Nancy Pelosi, for all of her faults, she always had an ability to reach a bunch of different people in the caucus, right? And she developed those kinds of relationships, including with AOC. I thought what you were going to say was that some of the left online criticized the fact that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was using her excess fundraising money to help other Democrats in more vulnerable positions. And I found that criticism to be quite silly because that's an exercise in leverage, right? And she's using her political capital to get something done behind the scenes. And just because we don't see it in public, you're going to hear about that maybe in a year or so. Or you may never hear about some of the gains that she gets. But that's kind of the stuff that we don't see that happens when you actually have people who are sane in the positions of power. And Lena Khan, I mean, what is this? The best FTC chair that we've seen in
certainly
decades?
Most aggressive, yeah.
I mean, since the 60s or whatever? Same in terms of Biden's posture towards labor. So it's not about voting for the person like they're a celebrity. We're not electing class president.
Right, and it doesn't mean you endorse the drug war because you voted for Joe Biden.
This isn't The Bachelor, where you're not picking somebody to marry. You're picking somebody who's a figurehead. And all of the people that come along with that person, the people that are, heading those agencies. That's what you have to keep in mind. So it's this whole, it's broadening elections outside of celebrity to coalitions.
Yeah, and if you really don't like Manchin and Sinema, if you don't like these Democrats that sit right on the edge, the easiest way to take power from them isn't to primary them, it's to just have more Democrats in office. If there are 55, 57, 60 blue senators, Manchin and Sinema don't matter as much anymore because we don't need to appeal to them, to that very center-leaning, center-right-leaning political or economic agenda in order to get what we want through the Senate.
Although in some cases you can primary. If the Democrat is likely to win the general election, like in Arizona, then you can primary Sinema and Ruben Gallego.
Maybe Sinema.
In Arizona, maybe, yeah, but in West Virginia.
Forget about it.
Well, primaries have value.
Arizona's kind of wacky, though, but yeah.
The more democracy that exists, I think, is the better. And primaries have value in terms of also pushing incumbents where they don't feel too cozy. They don't feel like they can rest on their laurels and not represent people anymore.
I think, we're talking about electoralism, which is of course vital, but I think that at the fundamental, personal level, so often it's about convincing a person that what they can do can make a difference, on any level. I saw the most incredible statistic the other day. Apparently something like 60% of the book bans in this country, school boards banning this because they mention gay people in it or something, all that. There's been thousands of them, right? 60% of them from 11 people. Just very dedicated folks calling around. They're not in the district, they're just calling around, making a fuss, traveling. It is remarkable, especially at a local level, how much single people can do.
I've heard stories of housing developments held up because one old lady goes to every single city council meeting. She knows every single person on the board and she's always giving speeches. There's a joke I tell on my stream. There's a stoplight outside my house that I hated, and they were finally marking the stoplight for deletion. And I remember one day this lady knocked on my door and she had a little petition to sign to save the stoplight. And I'm like, no, this stoplight is the dumbest stoplight in the world. I'm so glad it's changing stop signs. I have a son. I walk into school. It's not a dangerous intersection. And I kind of laughed it off and she walked away or whatever. And 2 weeks later, God damn it, she saved the goddamn stoplight. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, I should have been running a counter petition. But there is an ungodly amount of power available, but it's at the local level. And that's not sexy. Everybody wants to talk about Biden and Ukraine and AOC and that's it. And then it's like, well, who's your mayor? You know, like, what do you do locally? Because that's where just like 5 or 10 people can sometimes exert massive influence on some of your policies. But it's just not, it's not talked about on Twitter as much, so nobody goes for it as much.
You go to almost any city, and the downtown area is almost completely controlled civically by city councilors who are in the suburbs. So to them, it's just a shopping destination. But for like 100,000 people, it's home. And there's this disconnect. And it's almost always because the people in the suburbs are old and retired and have the time to run and the money to run, and they show up. And that is to their benefit, but like there's nothing about that that isn't transferable to like a young, like just out of college sort of entrepreneurial, engaged activist. It can be done, but a lot of people, especially on the left, it's not that they set their hopes too high. Hope should be high, but the expectations of what any individual can do, I think a lot of people are touting around, historical revolutionary dreams, when in reality, the real way you get power in this country and in any situation is by knowing who your local councilors are and calling them often enough to be annoying. That showing up is 90% of political power, and a lot of people don't want to do that because it's not sexy. And I think that making that sexy, or at least convincing people it's worthwhile, that's a really big part of it.
I also wish for a lot of like far left, because I've probably fought with all of you at some point over far left activism online. I wish that I'm sorry. Instead of, you might not know me, but okay. Instead of pushing, sure.
He owned you so hard you forgot.
Absolutely,
about it.
lots of Twitter.
No,
clips.
I know you debated Sam, but I don't really know anything else.
Sure, it's possible.
I don't remember any fight.
Okay, that's all good. You drank a lot, I guess. No. Instead of like or, I wish it could just be like and. Like, instead of looking at, well, the mainstream Dems won, it's either them or my progressives, and since they won, now I'm checked out of the process. Like, how many people were disillusioned after Bernie lost, and it's like, oh, superdelegates suck, and the system sucks, then you disengage. I wish there was more of like it's good to vote blue and to get Dems in, and we need to build on this and move it further left than, say, somebody like me would want. But moving and moving and moving while still supporting the establishment, rather than being like, well, if the establishment is winning, I don't want anything to do with it, I'm going to unplug completely until I get like my ideal socialist revolution or progressive revolution or whatever. I think that disconnect is just so cancerous for young people. I don't want to make Feinstein jokes here, but like if young people voted, the composition of Congress would be way different, right? It would be way different
if the South Seas and the world's old and new. That's what they call me. Me, Drizzlick, the finest Lee. Well, my leather goods are known far and wide as the most exquisite, a connoisseur's choice. I've just received an order from Director Riddlevox of the Tinkers Union for a dozen of his favorite Excelsior line boots. Our best sellers, actually. To start on the basic shape, I'll need crocolisk skins from the crocs along the river in northern Stranglethorn. I've gotten reports of a group of hunters that have set up camp upriver of the Venture Company mining camp on Lake Nazfariti. Now, normally I wouldn't care, but improbably I heard that Hemet Nessingwary was one of the hunters there. He's certainly well-connected, if you catch my meaning, and you never can be too safe. Why don't you go check out the camp, adventurer, see what they're about?
The electorate was more evenly composed of all the age groups rather than skewing so heavily towards only older people that seem to be more, like you said, live in the suburbs and are more plugged in. And yeah.
What I'd say to that is that those young people that you're talking about who got disaffected, by the the results of the 2016 primary, they're not an organized bloc. They're not really a thing. They're a lot of people who have, ideas about things. The party establishment is an organized thing. And so in that sense, between those two groups, the party establishment has a lot more agency. They can organize together, they can meet, and they can decide how they're going to interact with their, at that point, junior coalition partner member. They decided through 2016 that they were going to treat them like crap. And they then paid a price for it. So you can say that, well, people should be bigger than that and not worry about how they're treated. And okay, fine, that's legit. But at the same time, if you have something within your control, you got to do better than that. And and I think the party establishment has learned, like the way that the party establishment, Schumer in particular, even Hakeem Jeffries since he became House leader, has not been going to war against the kind of grassroots base on the left in the way that he used to. He even has told AIPAC to back off of going after the squad. Part of that is the squad being much more team players than they started out as. But that doesn't explain Schumer. Schumer too has just been close friends with Bernie, and like so it doesn't create the opportunity for people to be furious at the establishment.
Well, speaking of Schumer, this is a bit of a left turn, but what is your assessment, Ryan, as a reporter, you can put on your hat a little bit here, reporter cap, about Schumer's reticence to get Menendez to resign? Like, do you think that we're talking about a massive 2024 election where it's likely Biden versus Trump, and a lot of the thrust of what Democrats will argue, is that Trump is corrupt, he can't be trusted. It undercuts it a little bit if Menendez is hanging by a thread in the Senate. Why hasn't Schumer called on him to resign?
I think he thinks that this will work itself out eventually.
Yeah.
At his press conference on Tuesday, he said Menendez is going to be here speaking to the caucus Wednesday. We'll see how that goes, and then I'll talk about it afterwards. Didn't go great, but he's just trying to put it off. He hopes that it will, I think, resolve itself. The fact that they're all in the tri-state delegation and have 40 years of experience together, God knows what kind of relationship they've had over the years.
Yeah.
There's also the personal, they've obviously just known each other for that
between
entire
Feinstein
time.
and Menendez.
Yes.
It's
That puts them down to 49-49.
It's looking a little dicey over
he
there.
resigns.
I mean, honestly, Senate congeniality is a frickin' disease. Like, the idea that these massive decisions are being made based on personal relationships in this way. Like, say what you want about the House, but at least there's this more semblance of direct democracy there and a bit more accountability, because it's incredibly frustrating, I think, for people, like, talking about alienating voters, how recalcitrant the Senate is enormously, I think, demobilizing, especially when you can't get anything past the filibuster unless it's some sort of budgetary measure.
I think that's part of why people talk about like the effectiveness of a lawmaker, because to some extent politics is it's a game that you play. It's a skill that you exercise. It's not just a matter of like, well, I'm going in today to vote for exactly what my constituents want, because if you play it in that way, other senators that are working kind of more on these interpersonal relationships are probably going to have an edge in terms of different types of legislation or different types of deals that they're making on the floor. I understand the frustration, but I think that's probably just like an inevitable part of any republic, of anything where you've got like representatives going in and voting. Even on like local levels, like those interpersonal relationships are really important for, in some ways it's negative because it feels like you said it's alienating, like, well, why isn't he representing me? He's friends with this guy for 40 years. I guess screw me, right? But then in another way, ideally in an ideal world, there are people that are able to cut deals or push people a little bit more because of those relationships they have. So, but
though towards like authenticity, it is worth noting, of course, that there are, just the other day, at the same time that Democratic senators were increasing in number with calls for Menendez to resign, House Republicans on the impeachment inquiry committee were publicly saying that they would not support like following through on any criminal condemnations of Donald Trump following guilty verdicts in the indictment. So like while in the House the Republicans are just like, yeah, we don't believe in the rule of law. At least there's something here. I mean, Menendez, it's like a cartoon character, right? He's got like gold bars stuffed in the lining of his coat. It's like spilling out of his pockets as he runs out. So it's an easy target, Even any condemnation puts us ahead of the Republicans, but obviously, it should be a clear shot. Though, again, with the Senate being so weak, or like our hold on the Senate being so weak at the moment, I guess I can understand some degree of recalcitrance. It's just
well, it's like,
not...
but Jersey has a Democratic governor.
Oh no, it would,
and so does California. Like, most of this is just them being these them thinking that. I mean, I joke about how the Supreme Court thinks they're the high priests of the United States. I mean, the Senate feels like they act as if they're, I don't know, some sort of member of
the Supreme Chamber,
the clergy or something like
that.
The
upper part of the Congress, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it should go the way of the House of Lords in the UK and just basically be ornamental.
Do you guys viewers know that he was already indicted?
Yes.
In 2018.
He made history. He's the first senator in
jury.
the history
of
the United States to be charged with, while in office, with two separate criminal indictments. And knowing the history of the U.S., like going back to the 1800s, that really is a record-breaking performance. I mean, honestly.
Respect it, honestly. It's so straightforward. It's cartoonish, there's no subtlety. It's just a clear layup. Often a technicality, gold bars, whatever. It's no surprise young people have trouble feeling like there's any kind of meaningful inroad to political engagement here, when it does feel like, you know who you know, and that's politics. It's not entirely true, right? I mean, Bernie did a lot running, as a Democrat from independent. But it's just so hard. you know, I see all the Twitter engagement, right? All the lefties, you know, both parties are the same, like you said, that rhetoric. People are very, very, very quick to distrust. You mentioned the AOC, the money going around to help other weaker candidates. They see that as a sign of corruption somehow. You know, any connection, any tie, any engagement with people who aren't completely pure. Hell, Bernie endorsing Biden. That was seen as a sign of weakness. Now, I understand oppositional politics to a degree, but we have to work along a little, you know, to some extent at least. I just don't know how to best sell people on that, you know, that coalition mindset that you can actually do work from one side of it rather than just being the totality.
I think it's also important to note that, like, while on social media, it feels like, depending on the bubbles you inhabit, a lot of it looks like leftist infighting depending on the circles that you're in. The leftist infighting on the left is largely still, I think, like a figment of social media. But the infighting on the right, the Republican Party is legitimately threatening to tear itself apart under the weight of God knows what all the Donald Trump stuff is, the however many different charges he's facing, the fact that he's still so far ahead in the Republican nomination process, and the fact that there are still like a decent number of Republicans that won't support him. It only takes like 5 or 10% to effectively like destroy the Republican Party to pull away from him. That whole process is going to be
great time to be alive.
Yeah, maybe. Well, there's still like there's the hellscape future where Trump wins the election somehow.
It's over. You know, it's Jover even. Yeah. I lose Joe at that.
I feel like the fact that so many people still support him is almost like on it's Jover territory. Like, that's unbelievable.
It's like you can't. This is why Joe Biden's approval ratings are low, right? It's because you can be a Dem who will vote for him, but not approve him. Like, if you ask me, do I approve him? Well, no, because he's not, a communist or whatever. But I'll vote for him. I'll advocate for him. Whereas with Donald Trump, the line between, or the Venn diagram of supports and will vote for, it's one. There's one circle, you know? Yeah. Very little dissonance there.
There is like 10% or so of Trump supporters who will say, yes, I believe he's guilty and should be in prison.
Yeah.
And then will also vote for him.
Incredible brains.
Yes.
I mean,
you know?
many people are saying he's the Eugene Debs of the 21st century. But I mean, honestly, like that does bring up something interesting here, because Biden's approval ratings are really low, but that's not translating to Democrats like at the polling not what polling locations, but you know what I mean. In these
special elections.
Special elections, right? And even in 2022, normally, like in 2010, when there was this big backlash to Obama, that was not seen in 2022. And I just think it's a really fascinating dynamic to unpack, how Biden's presidency and his approval numbers appear to be a bit untethered from Democrats and the negative partisanship that they're able to engender when Trump comes up, right?
Master
Curious about any of your guys' thoughts on
I
that.
find helping him
Abortion
prepare
rights.
for a day in the jungle is much more relaxing than helping him ready for combat, although I do miss some of those glorious moments on the battlefield. Welcome to Stranglethorn. Perhaps you're not aware of this, but that dwarf over there is the one and only Hemet Nessingwary, renowned war hero of the Alliance and master big game hunter. He's not one for welcoming strangers into his camp, but you look like you've seen quite a bit of action in your day, adventurer. Being a veteran of many battles himself, Master Nessingwary has a soft spot for fellow heroes. Go and speak with him. Perhaps he can give you some hunting pointers. Jolly nice to make your acquaintance, adventurer. Haven't seen an adventurer around these parts for some time. I situated myself with this expedition for one purpose, to hunt a great and elusive beast. Seeing that you're a hero of sorts, I am willing to let you take part in the hunt, but you must first prove yourself. I shall teach the ways of raptor killing to you. Ajek will train you with tiger hunting, and Sir Erlgadin is a master of panther tracking. Prove your skill, and I'll let you in on the big hunt. So, you think your hunting skills are in tip-top shape? I can put them to the test in a jiffy. Head out into that jungle and kill 10 Stranglethorn raptors. We'll see just how much of a big game hunter you are. And no, I won't tell you where you can find them. Locating the beasts is half the challenge.
When I was but a young girl, my father trained me in the art of tiger hunting. You'll find the young felines much easier to track and slay. For this reason, we'll start you out easy. One can often find young tigers near the expedition camp. Test your tracking skills and see if you can hunt some of the beasts down.
If you want to be a part of the hunt with this crack group Hemet has assembled, you're going to need to prove yourself an able panther hunter. We'll start you out easy. Don't you worry. Let's see you kill 10 young panthers to start. Tracking them down is only half the challenge.
Master Nessingwary will be so upset if he finds out. He trusted me to proofread the manuscript of his novel, The Green Hills of Stranglethorn. Everything was going well, but a large gust of wind blew through the camp and scattered the pages everywhere. I was able to gather most of the pages, but many are still strewn about the jungle. Collect the pages to complete each of the 4 chapters. I will help you organize them. Return the chapters to me once you have all 4.
I think.
Right.
I think if you don't have Roe overturned, then you're not seeing the overperformance in special elections that you have now. But what it did is it.
Do you think January 6th too?
A little.
Yeah.
Yes, like that helped congeal the already partisan stew that was cooking at that time. But I think putting abortion rights on the ballot in a way that they hadn't been before, like Republicans had always said, like basically abortion rights are on the ballot. We're going to elect us. We're going to appoint judges that are going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and that drove out their voters. Democrats were they felt the whole issue was icky and wouldn't talk about it. Mm-hmm. And also Democratic voters are so used to hearing Democrats like cry wolf about, George H.W. Bush was going to be like the one that ended democracy or something. So like saying like every 4 years saying that like Roe is going to be overturned fell flat, even though it was true under Trump in 2016. Now, nobody can question whether or not it's on the ballot. And in some states, it's quite literally on the ballot in terms of a ballot measure. In Virginia, in a couple weeks, Youngkin, if he gets a trifecta, he'll be under pressure to push abortion restrictions. Basically any place at this point, the vote. Your vote has something to do with abortion rights, and so you're like, you know what? I don't care about anything else, but I do care about this, and that's enough to bump that number up.
Really quick point, and then go ahead, Josh. But that also really undercuts Trump's. Trump needs more suburban women to come after him if he wants to win in 2024, and this does not help him. Go ahead.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, it feels like for the longest time, corporate politics were always on the table, but for a lot of culture issues, it was always play fighting, right? Oh, they're going to revoke Roe v. Wade. Oh, they're going to overturn democracy. Oh, this, that, and like maybe, but eh. And then in I guess, 2016, 2017, whenever it became apparent, someone threw an actual punch, and it's like, oh,
you're really going to do this.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Also, a really unlucky confluence of stupid things. Of RBG not retiring when she should have. Of Merrick Garland, which we'll never get revenge for. Not that I'm a big fan of revenge politics, but that we actually lost a Supreme Court pick that was like dutifully Barack Obama's. Like these things coming together. And then, Donald Trump getting so many Supreme Court justices was incredibly unlucky. And then,
thank God he's a completely ineffective president, or he might have done real damage during his first term. I mean, maybe second term he does more. I don't want to give him the chance. It's just, I don't know. Young people get this, I think, because young people now, they're growing up in a world where there was no play fighting. At least, somebody's like 18 now. For their whole cognizant life, it's been real. But for a lot of older people, that's one of those criticisms of the Dems, right?
It's been really real for millennials. God damn, I graduated high school in 2007. So we entered, a lot of us got into college, and then right off the back of the huge recession, which was crazy, and then now there's fucking COVID, and Jesus Christ,
Yeah, if you take a look at the median wealth distribution across generations, it's like right after Gen X, and Gen X doesn't have it great either, but after them, it's like falling off a cliff, any millennial, Gen Z, now Gen Alpha, I mean, the only wealthy people from these generations are live streamers and crypto grifters, it seems. Outside of that, long-standing, successful family-building careers are few and far between, and I think that's really reflected in the hopelessness and ennui of the generations.
You forgot to add people that don't buy avocado toast.
Oh, obviously, right. Yeah. And people who stay with their folks till they're 30.
Is that going to change if these kids start, they're in their 30s now, start inheriting money, like as their parents?
I hope
great
it doesn't.
boomer die-off. We're finally waiting. It's finally almost around the corner. I feel like we've been talking about it for like 15
Speaking of
years.
play fighting, yeah,
It's the
for
big
20
boomer die-off. That's going to be like and also like a huge demographic change.
What does that do to the structural
I
politics?
hope it doesn't. We've seen that, like, they're not shifting rightward the way people, like, generations trend towards when they get older. And obviously, like, there's a systemic issue here, right? You know, you can fix it with one big cash grab for a generation, or some of them at least. But then the next generation's going to have the same issue. A lot of this ties back to housing. Nobody can afford housing right now. Nobody.
Yeah,
Like, zero people can afford houses.
City planning is like this intractable problem that nobody seems to be able to get right. And I think even if you look at like California, you've got like, what was that $1 billion train line to nowhere? Like, if even in some of these like left-leaning places, we can't figure out good city planning, good public transport, every place is becoming increasingly unaffordable.
Billions spent on high-speed rail, not even broken ground.
And
Just
there's so much like
avoid.
There's a lot of conflicting pressure too on housing prices, where people are asking for basically contrary things without realizing it. Like housing is becoming increasingly unaffordable because there are so few houses available. People want student debt forgiveness so they can afford houses, which would just drive housing prices up if every student had an extra $20,000 to buy houses. You know, interest rates are finally going up, which are making houses unaffordable, but it's supposed to drive down demand. Like the housing market is just in a super huge mess right now, and we're trying to combat it with so many tools beyond just like what we really need is really just like the aggressive rezoning of housing districts.
The Times had an article the other day that said that Tokyo has built more units in the last couple decades than exist in total in New York City.
Yeah, and not even surprising.
And as a result, people say, well, it doesn't have anything to do with the price. As a result, it's actually affordable to live in Tokyo. Like
Tokyo is the only city in the world that has managed it. Japan has a really aggressive housing policy for Tokyo. Yeah.
We need to repeal the Faircloth Amendment. I mean, the AOC kind of had a bill that came up in 2018.
What's that one do?
That's the one that bans basically all federal funding for public housing, and it's been in place since 1998. Yep, that was a good Clinton special, right, for the neoliberal turn, and it's just still been.
Did she sort of repealed it or something? I remember it coming up.
Bernie and her were working together on it, and then I just think it died. I don't remember. I mean, it's difficult, obviously, to get anything through the Senate, anything like that's not budgetary related.
I think it's really funny how this was framed as like a coastal elite problem, LA, New York, whatever, and then in 3 years, housing prices in Florida have gone up like 40% or whatever.
Alabama, I think, is up like 20% a year over year for like 4 years in a row.
Everywhere you move to, it was framed as like, oh, it's California, and it is to an extent, but it will be everywhere. Everywhere short of like Wyoming, and probably even there is going to have this issue. It's really just we somehow coordinate massive rezoning across the country at a local level, or some kind of federalized, subsidized housing, preferably better than the ones we've tried before. You know, those weren't great. Or, you know,
you could make federal money available to cities that fixed their problem.
Better that than highways.
Yeah,
people are tearing down their highways.
You fix your zoning problem. You crush your NIMBYs, then you get free housing.
Yeah,
and there's only enough for 10 cities. And everybody, go.
I feel like the issue that you run into, though, is this feels like a huge, like an external failure of democracy, and that all of your voters that are your strongest voting base in these cities are the ones that are most incentivized to vote against like new housing. Because like the people that are most harmed by lack of available housing in any particular city are future residents, are people that could move in and take advantage of lower prices that are now not able to. And then if you are living in a suburb in California, goddamn, I lived in Glendale, Culver City, Huntington Beach. There are so many of these places where you're in an apartment and like across the street from you are these like borderline dilapidated houses that sell for like $750,000 each, and it's like these people don't want to see high density, you know, housing go up. These people don't want to see all these condos or all these new apartments go up because now it's going to threaten their property value. So I feel like you run into a weird conflict of interest there, where you're incentivized as somebody that is in that area to vote down and to be a NIMBY, like you actually are rewarded for it. I don't know what like
the good news is we won't have any homeowners pretty soon.
Yeah,
there'll just be two. Probably,
just renters.
Like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, where you could go,
Vanguard and BlackRock or whatever.
I mean, you could just Prop 13 your way away from property taxes, so people would just stay in their house forever and then never have to deal with it.
Well, another big one is the if you own it can't be treated as a speculative investment. If you own a property and no one's using it, like, you know, you're waiting to sell it off, or, you know, that can't be allowed. Tax it so heavily that they have to put it out. Lower the prices. There's no ideal here, right? Like, the ideal is everyone just acts in their best interest and all the young people go out and do the city council voting. But like, this is an unworkable problem. Like, no one can afford anything right now.
Right now, you've got private equity with cash making a bid on, say, a $500,000 house. They have the cash, so they don't have to take any, you know, they don't have to pay the 7% mortgages. And then you have it against a person who managed to scrape together a down payment and then has to pay a 7% interest rate. like that's an unfair fight. The homeowner's going to take the cash offer every single time. And so,
and private equity is buying up a ton
everything.
of apartments in New York City. My apartment complex got bought by a private equity firm during COVID.
They're going to own like half of the housing
and they
stock
treat us
within
like
10 years.
garbage. Like they don't repair anything, and we can't get through to them. I mean, that's a whole nother saga. But
they probably want you to leave so they can renovate
it's
and
rent,
then
it's rent controlled, so they do. So they want me to leave anyway. But Ryan, I actually was reminded when you're talking about a piece you wrote a few years ago that still sticks in the back of my mind about the potential commercial housing bubble. That is also something that we should monitor because private equity was also, and venture capital, I believe, buying up a ton of those commercial real estate properties, and they were pretty overinflated, if my recollection serves me.
That was before the pandemic.
Yeah, do you have any updates on that?
People who watch that are just deeply frightened. They're like, this is, the CMBS, the commercial mortgage-backed security market, it has like so many of these traders scared. Is it going to be another like mortgage-backed security meltdown like we had in 2007? What they're trying to do now is turn them into residential properties, and all different Fed action is trying to like keep the bubble from bursting. But you're in New York, you're seeing a lot of that, right? They're turning them into half residential buildings or something.
Yeah.
The issue's been exacerbated heavily by everyone working at home too. So you go downtown and you see like rows and rows of dead, empty corporate office buildings and like for lease available in every commercial and office districts. And then you go check Zillow and like, a house that was $150,000 10 years ago is now.
Those are the interest groups that are also pushing people to return to work, get back into the office. These real estate groups
More
that
rent.
don't, that, yeah, right.
A lot of these are 5 and 10 year leases, so it holds off the calamity a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, this is an issue.
Oh, good. Holds off the calamity.
Yeah. I understand people want to rail against like private equity or large firms buying up houses and everything. I feel like this is a small issue. I know that people like to fixate on it, but the only reason why private equity goes after this property is because it's so goddamn lucrative, because there are so few housing units available. People want to fight when it comes to the housing issue. It's like one of those things that appears simple, and then when you read more, it's really complicated. But then I think when you read more, it's actually really simple. Like the only way that housing ever gets fixed in the United States or in any part of the Western world is to build more units. Rent control.
Or to decommodify it.
No, decommodification doesn't create more space though. You have to have more places for people to live. Like rent control has been thoroughly studied as a horrible way of trying to continue like housing stuff. Like building like luxury condos is good for everybody because people move up into other condos and make stuff available for people. You can get rid of private equity, but there's still going to be people that buy houses. You can try to get rid of like all landlords, but there's still going to be a lot of people chasing these few units. I think it's at the end of the day, it's more a physics problem than any type of economic problem. You just have a lot of people that want to live in an area with not enough houses available. And as long as we keep trying to like nibble at the edges by going after like vacant units, of which there are very few of in the actually like highly populated areas, or going after like private equity who are only making money because there's so few units available, or like by trying to decommodify housing.
But I think it's both too, because of the political economy. Because think about it, if that little lady had that much power to save the stoplight, if private equity rolls everything up and is benefiting from low housing supply, private equity also owns most of Washington. So they're going to be able to stop the solution that you want.
Homeowners benefit from low housing supply too, though. That's the issue.
But the people owning homes will be a minority pretty soon. So there'll be fewer people benefiting.
Possibly. Yeah, I guess it depends on.
I mean, that's the direction of the chart.
Sure.
There's no way out of this besides upzoning. That's like an inevitable. Yeah. I mean, behind us right now, I grew up in LA. Most of it's single-family homes. Every separate home is separated by a 5-mile plane of road and grass that dies in the summer and the fall and the spring now. As a lot of it's also city planning. We build our city so you have wide swaths of residential, and then everyone wants to shop right here, which means a lot of people got to drive there. You don't have these issues to the same extent in like Paris. Relative to population density, you want to go somewhere in Paris, you're above a coffee shop. There's something. That's not a suburban flavor. I think so many of these issues, it seems so difficult to solve because once you start talking about redesigning cities, this is no longer a federal issue. You can offer money, but at the end of the day, I mean, a big mobilization campaign to get 5 million young people to go to their local city council meetings? There's an upper limit in terms of like immediate action, but we need that,
Yeah.
Although we are redesigning the cities at least, because we're being forced to since the commercial buildings are.
Yeah, Seattle's been building a ton of apartments lately. They're all over the place, the constructs, and it's great. I love seeing that, you know?
Like every time I've been to Seattle, there's like 500 cranes in the air every time I'm driving around. I don't know what they're doing, but there's always a lot over there, yeah.
Well, it's good. I mean, honestly, making more commercial real estate spaces, hopefully, in urban centers for people to live in, just would accelerate something that I would like to see happen, to make sure that some place like New York City isn't just Disney World for tourists, and when you go in to see a show or Bridge and Tunnelers and coming in and like, you know, I don't want to see a homeless person, that might make me uncomfortable, and they actually become livable spaces where people can afford to be. I think that's one of the biggest problems with housing, and it's just creating, as Ryan has been delineating, an entire generation of renters.
It's a big sell for decommodification too. We know housing first policies work for homeless people, like on average getting them off the street, and it's economically beneficial in the long run. And we also don't want to set things up so that you have like a dense urban core where all the cool stuff is, and you build new housing, but it's like an hour out. So you create like this sort of like scaled out issue where all the poor people have 4-hour commutes to get into their janitorial jobs. It's really difficult. Why did we decide to talk about the difficult problem?
I don't know.
There's no like easy conclusion. Hey,
there's some easy problems.
How about shutting down the government? Let's not. What about that? That's good, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to frickin' even keep track. McCarthy's not bringing that continuing resolution to the floor, right?
They're going to do it.
They are?
No, I mean, they're going to shut it down.
Oh, no, they're going to shut it down.
I'm going to be stuck in the airport for like 12 hours trying to get back.
Is Biden actually going to take that damn meeting with McCarthy? I really hope he doesn't.
I don't know. He probably will. He's that kind of a guy.
I know he is that kind of guy. I know, but let the Republicans are reneging on the deal that they made back with the debt ceiling. It's
historically, who is usually held responsible for a shutdown? Is it always like
Republicans? Yeah.
No, I'm not asking who's actually at fault. I'm saying in terms of voter base, voters hold. Okay, yeah.
Same thing with the impeachment on Biden, and it's going to be the Clinton effect, hopefully.
It's desperation. I think they're running on fumes.
Now you're ready to turn it up a notch. If you want to prove yourself worthy of socializing with the likes of these big game hunters, you'll need to prove that you can kill 10 panthers. Those big boys are tougher. They're not as easy as the young ones you were killing earlier.
Nicely done, adventurer. You are ready to move on. You are learning, adventurer. Let us test your skills with the mature cats now. Kill 10 Stranglethorn tigers this time out.
Right now, right? The polling shows that the trans culture war stuff ain't working too well when it comes to mobilizing voters because it's marginal, you know?
You can only go through so many years of which ironically, funny, we talked earlier about like Biden's approval rating. I think one of the things that Biden has kind of done well is we went from probably the most inflammatory president ever to like the most chillest and least polarized. Like I don't know anybody that like really strongly supports Biden or really strongly hates Biden. He just kind of like does his thing. I think that's why the Republicans have kind of had to turn to like trans issues and other things to fight for so long.
Yeah, he's difficult to hate, which actually was a pretty good move, I guess. You know, it's one like
partly it was not being black.
Oh, for sure. Oh, it's so. I mean, he's like old,
and
white,
not being a woman.
80-year-old. Yeah. He's a very difficult person to attack on a personal or like civil bias.
I call him anodyne. I feel like that's the best way to describe.
Yeah, and it's why they go after Hunter so much as well, because like you look at Joe and he's smiling and he's old.
Oh, Hunter's hard to hate too. You're like, just
he's a badass.
Feel pathetic
for
about
cool
it.
people.
All right, we're getting the wrap. We're getting the wrap. Anyway, appreciate it, Ryan Grimm, Vosh, and. I'm so sorry, I'm so bad with names.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, Stephen.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Well, I like to shake hands. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you.
Yes.
Likewise.
Oh, here,
likewise.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Yes. Thank you.
Speak with you.
Stephen.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Well, I like to shake hands. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you.
Yes.
Likewise.
Oh, here,
likewise.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Shake hands. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you.
Yes.
Likewise.
Oh, here,
likewise.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Yes. Thank you. Oh.
You can do it. Yeah, and then us. And we finished. Nice. We did it.
Yeah.
Solving at least one DC problem.
Yes, there
right
we
here.
go. Perfect.
There you go.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, we are back. I'm Ryan Grimm, joined here by Destiny and Congressman Ro Khanna, who left to go vote to try to keep the government open.
Unsuccessful.
Failed.
Unsuccessful.
Tell us about what was the mood in the room? So basically, the Republicans had their own bill that was going to keep the government open, but they were going to strip wokeism out of the world.
As you put it, what did you say? Wokeism won.
Wokeism won. Republicans zero. So they went down. They couldn't even get Republicans to get on their street bill.
Because the cuts were so drastic. I mean, cutting funding for poor schools, cutting nutrition, cutting heating assistance,
And
cutting.
moderate Republicans, mostly the defective.
It was a moderate. Well, now you can't even make heads or tails. So you got some of the Freedom Caucus folks who don't think it goes far enough. You've got moderate Republicans. You've got some people who just want to bloody up McCarthy. So there's no, you can't figure out who the no votes are. But it went down pretty handily. And so this wouldn't have passed the Senate. So they're not even at a gate point right now. We're passing something that could get to the president's desk. They can't even get their own members in line.
So government shutdown coming, but let's talk about something else.
Well, or even, I guess, related to this, and so I was born in '88, so not as long of a view of the government. Have shutdowns like this always been a feature of the government like this commonly, or is this just like a new path going forward where we're going to obstruct in every single way possible, and now we're just going to be looking forward to fights on funding the government or raising the debt cap every few years?
So unfortunately, the shutdowns are fairly common. I mean, they've been going on since 70s and 80s, and they're often shutdown fights. I mean, that's not uncommon. What's uncommon, though, is the frequency with which they're now happening. And what's uncommon is people threatening the speaker's chair if they don't get exactly what they want. The other thing that's uncommon is usually when someone gives their word, they keep it. And I think McCarthy, candidly, had every intent to keep his word to the president, and then now is having to backtrack because he doesn't have his votes of his own caucus. So that's uncommon.
So there are a bunch of people on the left who watched the speaker fight play out over 4 dramatic days.
Oh, man.
And then they're watching this kind of thing. You know, you've got Matt Gaetz going to the floor, burning the place down. Then he goes on Steve Bannon's podcast and they trash McCarthy and everybody calls Congress and it's a gigantic fight. And there's some on the left who are like, I want some of this fight.
I'm on here. We got to make sure that Destiny and Ryan Grimm have a bigger outreach than Steve Bannon. That's what I'm told.
If we get a bigger one, does that mean we're going to then fuel like this kind of shutdown energy? Or why isn't there on the left a kind of Gaetz faction?
Well, I mean, I want you to push back, but I think the left doesn't get enough credit. I mean, there was a progressive faction that got on board with Bernie and Warren at a significant risk. When I decided to co-chair Bernie's campaign, I was the only member of Congress in the entire Congress endorsing him. When AOC endorsed, when others, Pramila endorsed, they took huge risks, and others were with Warren. So that fight got us Biden, who's now on the picket lines at Labor, who proposed dental vision and hearing for healthcare, proposed childcare, proposed a $15 wage, got infrastructure, got the IRA, the largest climate bill, and progressives fought there. We shaped the American Rescue Plan. We pushed very hard. We got the child tax credit. Now, did we have failures? Yes, we didn't get enough. I called for the firing of the parliamentarian on the $15 wage. We didn't succeed. We didn't succeed in pushing on voting rights and the end of the filibuster. But I guess the question was, what more did they want us to do? Like, how would a shutdown have achieved those goals?
I feel like Biden's legislative agenda has been more aggressive than I think anybody would have hoped coming into this like historically divided Senate and everything. I think there were a lot of people, even far left, even center left, that didn't really hope for much, that there would be, the American Rescue Plan, we'd have some sort of COVID thing, and then after that it would basically just be nothing. But, as you've said, with the IRA passing and all the other legislation that Biden's worked on, it seems like he's done a really effective job at moving legislation through such a divided Senate, which I think has been really impressive. Just on what you said about the left not getting enough credit for what they have done.
I agree with that. I mean, I think Biden has been far more progressive than people expected. I mean, he's been more progressive than you expected. No?
For sure.
I mean,
now if I would have predicted any of this, it'd be crazy.
And I give Biden some, some of that credit of having the sensibility and the values to do that. But I also give the progressives credit. I give the 2018 progressive class credit. I give Bernie credit. I give Warren credit. Now, that's not to say, okay, everything is great. That progressives need to say, look, we haven't made progress on health care and health care being free in this country like it is in so many other places. We haven't made progress on education. People are still burdened with student debt. We haven't made progress on the wages in this country. There's still wages that have stagnated, and ultimately people's take-home pay doesn't feel like enough. And we've got to have a bolder economic populist agenda.
What's that? Oh, sure.
Yeah,
We're
sure.
going to pause for a second?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Pausing.
We'll be back.
We'll be right back.
Is audio hot? Are we? Okay, I want a question. Earlier, we spoke about how, from the American public side, you just have people that go to Congress and they vote on legislation, and for a lot of people, we think that's kind of all that happens. But the relationships that you guys form in the Senate and in the House are actually really important to how you do day-to-day business. So I'm somebody, and the rest of the country watched equally as the Justice Dems came into Congress. It seems like there was kind of this like combative tone. You had the force the vote stuff. There's a lot of that type of discourse going on. And then it seems like people like AOC have kind of settled into a more comfortable rhythm of, right, like, I'm going to push you guys, but I'm also going to work with you guys in a more effective manner than just being very combative, I guess. I'm just kind of curious on like a personal level, how do you navigate your like congressional relationships versus like obligations that you have to your constituents? Like, what does that day-to-day process look like? I'm so curious.
Well, you need 218 votes to get anything done, and you need votes on a committee to get anything done. So my philosophy has been I don't compromise the values of being for Medicare for all, Bernie's bill, or free public college, or wealth tax, or not having PAC money and lobbyist money. But I try to find common ground with colleagues, and I won't go on the floor and, shame colleagues who may have a difference of philosophy. I think some on the progressive side want us to do that. And I understand, they want us to do what Matt Gaetz is doing to McCarthy. But at the end of the day, the Republican philosophy is stop government from funding things. So if things shut down, if things don't work, it's not the end of the world. Our philosophy is we really want funding for free public college and for Medicare for all. How are you going to do that if you're not going to win over people? I guess that's been the dilemma. So I know that there have been critiques of the Justice Democrats, of which I was the first one, and AOC and the squad, but they haven't moved on many of the issues. They're just trying to navigate to build power while being effective.
Well, you took a big interpersonal risk in 2018 when, during AOC's challenge to Joe Crowley, and people may forget this, Joe Crowley was considered to be the next Speaker of the House. Like he might even have challenged Pelosi. Pelosi only won re-election Speaker because there was nobody to challenge her. Her sort of slogan was, you can't beat somebody with nobody, and it's because Crowley had been the one that had been positioned for that. He needed some progressive support. He rolled out an endorsement that you had given him earlier.
Yeah, but I endorsed him after he came out for Medicare for all.
And so then he rolled it out right before the election.
Yes.
And you get hammered on Twitter.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? I also endorse AOC.
Yeah.
And Corbin Trent, who was her communications director at the time, said that was so much better for us than if it had been a traditional endorsement.
Yeah, it became a meme almost.
Because
the kind of dual endorsement.
It brought so much attention to the race.
Yeah.
And then Crowley could not survive attention.
Yeah.
Like he needed that race to be under the radar. So how did you decide to kind of pull that trigger, knowing that she's probably going to lose?
Yeah.
And now you've taken a shot at the next Speaker of the House.
Well, she was herself thought she was going to lose.
Yeah.
I was on Twitter with her, and I didn't have her at the time her number, but we were DMing each other, and actually, she was fine. A lot of people around her were pushing me to endorse her, and she never pushed that. But once Crowley rolled out that endorsement, I think she DM'd it and saying, "Well, look, I've got the whole world against me, and now the progressives you guys are against me too." Like, fine, I'll just get to do it. I mean, it was very respectful. And I think that note, her outreach, and then thinking about how it was like when I was a young Indian American running against the establishment and people would walk in the other direction. And I was like, I just don't want to be part of doing that. So I'll endorse. And when I endorsed her, I said, look, I respect Crowley. I get that he's come for Medicare for all, but we've got to be for new voices. And she's an incredible new leader. I didn't think she'd become an AOC, but that she's going to have a very bright future. And I thought this is someone who's going to be in there for a...
You are progressing quite well. Now I'm going to up the stakes on you and truly test your skill. Prove to me you can kill 10 Elder Stranglethorn tigers. If you can do that, you will be ready for your final challenge before I declare you a Master Tiger Hunter in Master Nessingwary's presence. Elder Stranglethorn tigers are not only the most difficult to find, they are also the fiercest to defeat.
If not this time, in a future time.
What Crowley say to you?
Oh, it was heated. In fact, if you look at C-SPAN, there is a clip of him yelling at me on the House floor. Really heated. I mean, we have a cordial relationship, and I don't wish him any negative things, and I know his family is going through a tough time. But at that moment, it was heated. I mean, it was like, what is he doing? I mean, that just wasn't done. And I was getting some criticism from the left. It was like, why have you not revoked the Crowley endorsement? And actually, AOC, to her credit, I'm sure this tweet still exists, came to my defense and said, look, this guy's already walking the plank. Like, how far do you want him to go? This is good enough. She would have won anyway, given the margins, but this certainly contributed to her momentum because it was the first person from the establishment to say, look, this person is serious and can win. I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan and I covered that race. I remember that we were there on that victory night together. That was an incredibly exciting time and such a seismic moment for the insurgent left and the progressive movement and Justice Democrats more broadly. Some of the criticism about Justice Democrats' strategy, in my opinion, is unfounded in the sense that they are trying to make as many gains as possible in really blue districts. And that is where you can get the most bang for your buck. Some people say, well, let's expand and go to purple areas of the country, run some progressive candidates there. Then their batting average is going to be a lot lower, but you're still taking more shots, to mix metaphors there. What's your assessment on how that strategy should be deployed?
Well, there's no doubt to me that we can win in purple districts. I mean, look at Fetterman. He won in a quote-unquote purple state. He ran on Medicare for all. He ran on taxing the ultra-rich. He ran on political reform. And he's one of the most interesting members, in my view, of the entire Congress and having an impact because he's kind of a straight shooter. And so I do think we can win in these districts. But the challenge is that it's resources. I mean, they are so outmatched. And then when you've got millions of dollars in super PACs coming in against their candidates, I do think the Democratic Party should say no super PACs in Democratic primaries. If you can't unilaterally disarm with the Republican, because it'd be unfair if you just had the Republican using super PACs, and they always use that argument. So say, fine, in a general election, we're not going to unilaterally disarm, but we should not be using super PACs in a Democratic primary for the House, Senate, or presidency. And any super PAC, whether it's a labor super PAC, whether it's a corporate super PAC, because you can't distinguish. Then they'll get into, well, why can there be some super PAC or not at the other? And that, to me, that's why the Justice Democrats are resource strapped, because they've had to defend in these districts against an onslaught of resources. So they're looking and saying, okay, let's do a few races and win instead of spreading ourselves out thin and get zero wins. But in concept, I agree with you. We should be fielding people everywhere.
Yeah. No, I mean, I actually think the bluer districts is a better strategy, but sorry, go on, Ryan.
I was just going to say I've got to run because I got to go tape something out. So it's always great to have you on here, and I'm glad you're so open. I wish more of your colleagues would do this. Do you ever hear from them when they see you out there and say, like yesterday we did a Twitter Spaces with Unusual Whales, like you're one of the few that does those types of...
I think what happens is people are afraid of getting asked tough questions. I was telling earlier with Emma, I mean, she asked me about Mulvey, and she asked me about my vote on socialism, and she asked me about a fundraiser at David Sachs, right? Well, I go on MSNBC or CNN, I know those questions aren't going to come up. I know exactly what the questions are, and I know that if I say these things, it'll be fine. Or the stock conversation we had, people said, okay, you're for banning stocks, but your wife is wealthy and she has a trust. And explain that, right? Yeah. My philosophy has been that you go in, you answer the best you can, you be transparent, and overall, people will build more trust for that than if you avoid the questions. A lot of other members and others think that it's bad. Like, why go and what if you make an error, and what if you say something that is dumb? What if someone on this panel makes a comment that is outrageous and you don't respond in time to condemn it, then you're in trouble. So they just think that the risk of it is very high. And I think we live in a different time. I have had people excoriate me. I've gone on Breaking Points or Brianna Joy or your program, and or sometimes the Majority Report, and all the comments are negative. It's like kind of
watch out, Ryan.
And then I'll run into the person at the airport, and they'll say, "We just love that you go on. We're for it earns a grudging respect." And so I'm a big proponent on more of our folks doing it. On the right, they do it all the time. They run to Steve Bannon.
They do. All right, well, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
See you guys again soon.
Good seeing you.
We're twinning, Izzy.
Oh, I know. I meant to say that to you earlier. We had the right idea.
I guess maybe I can ask you a question. I don't think I've heard you speak about this, but I feel like you'll bring a really unique perspective, which is, I don't know what you think about this. I feel like there's a lot of young men that feel super disillusioned and are getting really like caught up by like these Tates and anti-establishment people and just people who really kind of seem to rail against maybe even the entire democratic process. What do you think like Democrats can do to kind of like reach out to these young men and make these men feel like Democrats like care about their interests and needs?
I haven't been asked that. It's a very thoughtful question. I've read Richard Reeves' book on the disillusionment of boys and men. I would say a couple things. One, people have to see the economic prospects ahead of them, right? It used to be that if you worked hard, you'd have a shot at getting a house, you'd have a shot at being able to support your family, you'd be able to build wealth. And a lot of folks are just disillusioned. They don't think they can ever buy a house. They can't afford rent. They don't have a clear pathway to building economic wealth. So I think we have to talk about, in real ways, the economic challenges that folks face. I think we have to talk about why certain values of respect and respect for women, respect for our family matter in a society, and that it can't just be a free-for-all conversation, that there's a reason that society evolved to have certain standards, and throwing things out, throwing the rule book out without reflecting on why those norms or rules exist is not being macho or brave. It's actually just being dumb at times, and having those honest conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just to add to your point, so much of the conversation surrounding young male alienation ends up falling back on it's the feminists, right? I mean, they're the ones creating these new rules and no one knows what it means. But I think so much of it really is general societal alienation, right? When you don't know if you miss a paycheck, if you're going to get evicted from your apartment, when you don't have health care that you can rely on, it creates a general level of societal anxiety that is really acute. And it's not just men that feel anxious or alienated. It's women, it's everybody in this country. So, I mean, generally, what's your sense on the mental health crisis being addressed from an economic perspective in Congress, and what can be done to alleviate it?
We're not doing nearly enough to address the anxiety that the American dream is slipping away for people. I mean, what we need to be doing is providing free health care through Medicare for all, free education or career training, making sure that the corporate Wall Street isn't buying up all the housing, and having some plan for people to be able to buy a house, some sense that they can stand on their 2 feet and have an economic future where they can support a family. But if you have men, young men or women, but who don't think that they can support a family, who don't think that they can get a house, who don't think that they have any economic dignity, that I think is alienating. And it's alienating for young people across the board, but it has a gender component. Now, what has come is people are blaming some of the feminism and empowerment of women and empowerment of minorities. So first, to them who have a problem with that, I'd say tough. Get over yourself. Right. That's, you're not, if you're going to rely on being unequal and being domineering and having unequal advantage to have a status, then you're just wrong, and you're on the wrong side of history. And I think we have to be that direct with folks who have that sentiment. But if your alienation stems because you don't see how you can be productive and have the American dream, then let's talk and let's have a conversation. But also, I think that we have to be direct in the defense of feminism. Right? We've got one side that's blaming feminism, and we don't have anyone out there being like, well, here's why we have feminism, because we want talented people to have or their God-given potential manifest, and we've had hundreds of years of that not happening. And if you got a problem with that, let me tell you, you're on the wrong side.
Yeah.
I think it feels like the scary issue that's come up is for a long time there's been a big societal push to kind of help women achieve at minimum equality, and now surpassing men when it comes to different areas of life, whether it be workplace opportunities or college education. Those are the two big ones. I think a lot of the fear for younger men that exists in society today is it felt like there were people willing to set up a big societal infrastructure to kind of bolster women, which I think we've done exceptionally well. But now as men have continued to fall behind, especially over COVID, I think the dropout rates in colleges for men far exceeded women. Now you're in an area where I don't know if they feel like Democrats or progressive people on the left are going to come out with a, we need to help the men now catch up in college. I think they're worried that that voice doesn't exist in the same way that it did for women. And then because that voice doesn't exist on the left, people look to the Jordan Petersons, the Andrew Tates, the all of the people on the right that are willing to capture the ear of those people, the Dennis Pragers and everything. Yeah, I think that's kind of the fear. It feels like on the left they're scared to talk to majority class sometimes, whether it's white, whether it's men, and then they end up looking elsewhere to the right, unfortunately.
That's a fair point, and here's what I'd say. The first thing we did in Congress was not pass child care, which would have disproportionately helped the 2 million women who were out of work get back into work. We passed infrastructure, and infrastructure actually helped. The jobs were 70% men. So this idea that the Democratic Party isn't doing things that also help men factually isn't the case. Now, maybe our communication is a problem, but if you asked me what the highest priority in COVID was, I wouldn't have told you go pass infrastructure. I would have said go pass child care. That was what was hurting the economy. 85% of women say that lack of child care is why they leave a job. Now, what do I think we should be doing with men in communities that have also felt alienation? I've gone to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I've gone to Warren, Ohio. I've gone downriver, Michigan, where you had large amounts of men lose their jobs, lose factories, lose industry. Why did we just watch while that happened? Why can't we have a massive reindustrialization plan? Bring the new steel plants back that also have a lower carbon footprint. Talk about bringing new jobs and economic opportunity. That's going to help men and women. It's going to help black and white folks, but it's certainly going to help the people you're talking about. It's going to help the white working class as well, and address the issues of debts and despair, and invest in healthcare there, invest in mental health counseling there. So I think that there is an importance of showing up in communities, and we've posted videos where there are a lot of white men who are being helped. We posted videos where a lot of African American black men and women who are being helped. So I think you can't exclude communities, and you have to understand that there are definitely communities that are hurting, and men who are also hurting, as long as you never compromise on the principles of feminism. Don't blame equality for your problems. Don't blame equality opportunity for your problems. Blame society hollowing out the working and middle class.
Yeah, just a comment, I really agree that the issue, it feels sometimes is more a perception one than the reality of what's happening.
That's
right, yeah.
Yeah, and just bringing up the child care, I'm curious. I know the Republicans obviously have a slim majority in the House, but child tax credit during COVID reduced child poverty by 40%. Is it a priority for you when hopefully the Democrats take back the House in 2024 to re-up the expanded child tax credit and make that more permanent policy? Because I think we've tried it and it's worked. Joe Manchin and the Republicans killed it, but I would love to see that be more permanent.
Absolutely. I mean, we know now that poverty is a policy choice in this country. We had the child tax credit, which was basically $300 for each child for working and middle class families. So you made $50,000, you have a kid, you'd get $300. You had 2 kids, you get $600 a month. People were using it, we know statistically, to buy school supplies, to buy clothes for their kids, buy nutrition, food for their kids. And then and poverty dropped 40%. Then we couldn't extend it, and poverty has gone up 40%. And the Republicans blamed Joe Biden, who actually brought it down. What we should be doing is extending it. But beyond that, why can't we have childcare at $10 a day in this country? People say, oh, that's so cheap. How are you going to do that? Childcare is broken. It costs $10,000 for an average family, and the childcare workers are broke. I mean, how do you have the system not working either way? If you did $10 a day, that's still $3,600 a year. That's still a lot of money. We should be funding childcare in this country the way we fund public education. They're doing it in Canada. They do it in every other industrialized country. You say, how do you pay for this stuff? Pay for it by taxing people in my district. This is one thing I've not understood for the life of me. The guy who represents all the millionaires and billionaires is telling you raise their taxes. I represent a district that has 1/3 of the S&P 500. It's $10 trillion. How is this a hard vote for anyone else in the country? Like, all the billionaires and millionaires, most of them are in my district or in New York. If I can be for this, how can other people not be for taxing the ultra wealthy?
And not to mention all the productivity gains from the people that then can work too, because they've got childcare for their children. They don't have to drop out of the economy completely to do childcare. You know?
Exactly. $12 billion of gains is what is estimated in a yearly basis just by having people be able to live up to their talent.
One thing that you mentioned that I think it had me thinking, which is essentially this perception issue, right? I think a lot of people get very kind of unsophisticated in what they blame. And you've brought up the economy a lot. But one of the biggest issues I feel like I see in online politics is getting people interested in the economy in the way that the economy actually works, right? Versus like this like nebulous idea of economy. How do you get average citizens to kind of buy into this idea that the economy matters, that these things need to be talked about, and to get sophisticated enough to understand like different ways that bills and policies can actually improve economic standings for average Americans?
Yeah. Well, we can't just lecture them about how they should feel about the economy. They say, a politician, we've created 13 million jobs. Unemployment is at record lows. And they just kind of tune out. They're like, well, come on. My salary hasn't gone up. It costs me too much to rent. I go to the grocery store and it's costing me more. Filling up my tank, it's costing more. We got to be real with folks and be honest that the working and middle class has gotten shafted for the past 40 years. Then we can say, look, President Biden is trying to fix this. He's not going to fix it overnight. Here's what he wants to do. Here's what he has done. He's providing funding to bring manufacturing back, infrastructure back. We have put money in people's pockets with stimulus checks and a child tax credit. Here's what the other side wants to do. We're not going to, they want tax cuts for the wealthy. They want deregulation. We're not going to pretend that your life is magically great. We're not going to try to sell you on something you don't feel. But we are going to try to say that the policies we're building, done even more, is what's actually going to help improve your life and get you what you want. Most people don't want to be millionaires and billionaires. Some do, more power to them. But most people just want a house, economic security, being able to live after their family. And they feel like they can't do that now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, actually. It seems like authenticity is a really big thing for you specifically. You want to have the conversations that people are sometimes hesitant, which is why I think you're reaching out to the streamer world, which is really cool. As you said, I think you talked about if you go on CNN, you know the questions they're going to ask you. Do you know what the reticence is beyond just like we don't know what questions will be asked, of like getting into places like TikTok? Because it seems like when politicians do that, it's really successful a lot of time. People love kind of that organic interaction with people that are actually making decisions that change their life.
Yeah, well, I was amused by Vivek Ramaswamy, and I don't want to take an attack at him. I just, on the one hand, he's got this platform like that people under 25 shouldn't vote. And then at the debate last night, he said, well, why are you on TikTok? We got to win the young vote. I said, you got to pick one side, buddy. Which one are you on?
I think it's okay if you want to attack Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, he's a bit of a
You're not going to find much fighting here.
My words, not yours.
Well, it's just I don't want to give the guy more oxygen on something that's not going far. But, I don't understand why we're not on. We're on TikTok. I'm on these conversations. I'm on the China Select Committee. Do I have concerns on who manages TikTok? Sure, but that has nothing to do with the millions of people who are on TikTok. I mean, they're on there. If you want an American company to buy it, fine, do that. But why are you boycotting communicating with Americans? You want just China to communicate with them? I mean, so I think we have to be on these platforms. I think you have to be real in terms of answering questions. The only thing Donald Trump was able to capture, because he's got absolutely no solutions, is he was able to say, your lives are terrible because of what this country did in offshoring and other things. And he channels grievance. And that is the first people have to say someone gets it, and then they have to say, okay, here's what you're going to do about it. Our party has got to be more also about we get it. Like, we understand what life is like for most people today. And the reality is there's anxiety, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but most people are anxious. This is not the American. My father, when he came in the 1960s, this was the place to be. We were sending a person to the moon. We were building things. You came to America, you were going to be part of the middle class, working class. Now, we had deep issues of race. My parents probably couldn't have gotten a meeting with a member of Congress, a staffer. We had issues, of course, in the black community that are incomparable, and segregation. And we've made progress there. But on the economy, we've hollowed out this idea of the American dream. And until we get to acknowledge that and focus on that, I feel like we're going to have people alienated.
What do you do if you're at home and you watch stuff like this and you want to see like people from Congress making more regular appearances on my stream or the Majority Report? If you're like somebody at home, what's the best way to support that? Would it be like writing letters to your congressman?
No one reads those letters.
No one reads them?
Yeah,
oh, geez, okay.
I'm just being blunt.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Are there phone calls then? Is it picking? Yeah.
The letters happen, and, occasionally I read a random thing, but what they do is they summarize them. I mean, they summarize, okay, this is pro-Ukraine, anti-Ukraine, et cetera, and you get a report. So if there's very big public sentiment on something, fine, do it. I'm not saying don't write to your member of Congress, but actually if you tweet at them, because a lot of members are on Twitter. I mean, I know the stream, but if you're on social media and you catch their attention, you can say, look, I heard Ro Khanna go on with Destiny, go on a Majority Report, go on these things. I mean, get their attention on social media. Members are often there. Show up to their town halls. Show up in person. Members of Congress showing up to them in person really makes a difference. Try to get the attention of their staff and show up and meet their members of staff. Coming to Capitol Hill on Capitol Hill Day, that gets people's attention. But, you have a lot of power to people out there. The millennials and Gen Z are going to be a huge, huge voting bloc. And I feel people are getting how to communicate with them, right? They're not watching MSNBC like my parents still. They're not watching CNN. So tell people that this is what you want them to do to get your information. This is how you're going to make your decisions.
Bit of a hard pivot here, but I'm noticing that younger people are increasingly becoming more disillusioned with United States foreign aid to Israel, right? And the fact that we are still supporting a regime that is engaging in apartheid. And I am discouraged as somebody that wants to see Palestinian humanity respected, because it feels like no matter how far right Netanyahu and the Israeli government pivot, it just nothing seems to change in terms of our relationship with providing them with money. What is your sense of how things are shifting, if at all, in Congress about our relationship with Israel, given how things have escalated and essentially Netanyahu being quite clear that continued settlements and occupation is the goal?
So I'm center left on the issue. I'm not where you are, but I'm also more progressive than many. I'll answer your question in detail.
A true panther hunter can show skill by dropping Shadowmaw panthers, the deadliest in Stranglethorn. Prove to us that you can slay 10 of these beasts. If you think they are hard to track, wait until you attempt to slay one.
Nicely done, old chap! Now let's step up the challenge and see if you're up to it. Venture into the jungle and bag yourself 10 of those bloody lashtail raptors. Let's see what you've got!
You get hung up.
Let me just say on the vote we had last night, because it's fresh on my mind, we had a vote about will you permanently prohibit any U.S. money being used to move the embassy from Jerusalem back to Tel Aviv? And only 60-some of us in Congress voted no on that. I mean, our embassy never was in Jerusalem. That is, we weren't supposed to put it there because that's contested still for the final peace talks. And you don't even have a majority of Democrats willing to go back to the policy of not having a potential conversation about moving where our embassy is. So what am I for? I'm for no new settlements. I'm for our aid not being used in any way that violates human rights and the upholding of the Leahy law that is supposed to do that and tracking of that at the State Department. I'm for the smart lifting of the blockade in Gaza, which has led to 42% unemployment there. I'm for making sure that that you don't have settler violence against Palestinians or the demolition of homes, and have been on a number of letters regarding that. I am for and supported Jan Schakowsky's resolution on making sure that America affirms democracy and the court in Israel. All of this puts me in the minority. But I've supported aid to Israel. I've supported the funding to Israel. I've said Israel is an ally, which I believe. If this is not where you are, I mean, I know you're more critical, and I just don't want to mislead people listening.
I appreciate the candor.
But I think that even getting to my position is an uphill battle.
Well, especially in Congress.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the frustration, at least for me. I mean, what is Israel's incentive to stop settlements if we do not condition our aid?
Well, the incentive would be if the United States American president said no new settlements, that would be a pretty big incentive.
I would love that. Yeah.
And I believe that's what the American president should say and should be very candid. No new settlements, and that this is what America expects. And making sure that the funding, which it isn't, I don't think, none of the funding is used to assist with the new settlements. I mean, that is making sure the use of the aid is not for things that violate human rights. And that is a position that Elizabeth Warren tried to articulate in her campaign, which many progressives believe in, and that you can still affirm, as I do, the U.S.-Israel relationship, the partnership, the cultural and strategic value and moral value of the relationship, while pushing for it in a more democratic, pluralistic direction with ultimately two states. I think, though, the progressive movement has a lot of work to do still to get members to a place where I am. I mean, my position is a position that is still a minority position in the Congress.
Certainly, and then I think I'm sorry to dominate, but I think part of that too is that when, for example, a member like Summer Lee is a bit more on probably
she's more progressive on or more whatever left,
right?
Yeah.
AIPAC spends millions and millions of dollars to defeat her both in her primary and then in the general election. It didn't work, but those are the kinds of things that I think progressives are up against. And you talk about moneyed interests all the time. That I don't necessarily know if the general public understands why that chills the debate on that front.
Well, absolutely. And this is why I was for a general ban on super PAC money in primaries. Because you can't say, in my view, okay, if you're a pro-Israel advocacy group, you can't spend super PAC money, but if you're a pharmacy group, you can spend it, or if you're a group want to promote
so my
U.S.
information was correct, as usual. Interesting. Well, I don't suppose they pose any sort of threat of interference with our operation, but perhaps they have a need for some of our excellent manufactured products. Hey, how you doing? These skins should do. Their quality isn't too important, given that they'll make up the inside layer of the boots, but it's still important that they're comfortable. If they're a bit too rigid, I'll use some tiger blood to soften it up. Tricks of the trade, you know? Well, I've got the basic shape of the boots worked out, and they're coming along fine, but the skins you brought aren't going to be quite enough for the inner layers. What are we gonna do, Drizzlick? No doubt the question on your lips? And, well, Isn't it lucky you're talking to Drizzlick? Because he's going to tell you what we're going to do? The inner layers will never really be seen, so we'll just get some of the thicker, cheaper skins from the crocs around Lake Nasfaridi to fill the boots out.
India relationships, you can spend it, or if you're a left labor group and you care, you can spend it. Just ban it. Ban super PAC money. This way it's facially neutral. No one can complain. And ban it in primaries. And the reality is progressives often don't have the resources. Other corporate interests do, like the health insurance, pharma. I saw it in Bernie's campaign. It was a big problem. All the health insurance were doing super PAC funding against him in the early states. Ban that in the primaries. You'd get a much cleaner election.
I guess looking at foreign policy stuff then, obviously our track record over the past 25 years with foreign intervention is not the greatest, given Iraq, Afghanistan, among other things. What do you think when you look at the U.S. support for Ukraine? What do you think our moral obligation is there ultimately in terms of how much funding, for how long, for what kind of operations? What are our red lines for how Ukraine is allowed to act? How conditional is our support for them? What do you think the moral obligation for the United States is there?
Well, we just had a vote on this as well, and I voted for continuing the funding for Ukraine. I mean, Putin was absolutely in the wrong to go in to invade a sovereign country. You start with that principle. I mean, we can't just go into Mexico. We can't just go into Canada.
Or into Iraq.
Well,
I mean...
Well, I was opposed to the Iraq war.
No, that's what I mean, though. We have done those things.
You know, I was opposed to the Iraq war. My first campaign, I got crushed running in a primary against someone who had voted for the Iraq war, and I ran a primary campaign against him. It's still one of the things I'm proudest of doing. So it was morally right, in my view, to come to Ukraine's defense. If we stopped the aid tomorrow, you would have Putin march into Kiev. You know, the mission has largely been successful. They haven't been able to make penetration into the Donbass because of the landmines, but people thought Putin would be in Kiev 2-3 weeks after. It's only because of the United States aid and NATO that we've prevented that. And I agree that there's got to be some just peace. I was on a Progressive Caucus letter calling for dialogue, and I got hammered for that, even while I voted for every aid package. I said, you got to have communications with Russia, with Ukraine, with other allies to help bring a just peace. And I'm all for doing that. But what I'm not for doing is, until we can get to that, withdrawing our aid, because that's going to mean that all of the sacrifice was in vain. I mean, Putin would just march into Kiev the minute we left. And so what I've said is I'm going to continue to support it, but I'm also one of the voices saying, let's at the same time have de-escalation and look at how we have a just peace agreement.
Do you have in your mind, when you say de-escalation in Ukraine and Russia, I'm not asking you to create policy right now, but do you have an idea of what that could possibly look like?
The off-ramps,
I think it could be deconflicting areas, temporary ceasefires in areas, places where we're saying that the conflict is not expanding. I mean, this is a conflict that was really going on since 2014, right? And then Putin marched in and made it much worse, but it wasn't like there was peace in the area. So I think deconflicting and seeing if there are regions where you can have temporary ceasefires or not have expansion, all of that should be part of a conversation. I mean, ultimately, Ukrainian sovereignty needs to be restored, or we need to listen to what the Ukrainian people want in terms of a just peace. But we should be facilitating that while we're providing the aid.
How do you feel about U.S. or China navigating some of those peace conversations? Do you have a preference of who that falls to, or what do you think America's role should be within that?
I believe that America obviously needs to continue leading the NATO world in supporting Ukraine. But if there are other countries that can be brokers in trying to get us to a just peace, whether that is India, Israel, which both have relationships, by the way, both with Ukraine or Russia, if China can be constructive, I mean, I welcome anyone. That was the idea of multilateralism in the United Nations. I mean, that doesn't say America shouldn't be a leader in NATO and leading the world. It's to say that leading the world requires pragmatism of understanding which people who can help facilitate this.
Much of Joe Biden's foreign policy has been, I've agreed with a lot, but one thing I'm a little troubled by is this orientation towards a rivalry with China, which seems to be look, it's inevitable in terms of the economic rivalry, but Biden seems to think that this is fairly existential, and a lot of his burgeoning relationship with Modi to create a rivalry or to get India more on our side in that rivalry is a part of that, as well as the I think 4 military bases, I believe, in the Philippines that he reopened. What's your position there? Because I don't want to get into another Cold War situation. I'm understanding about the rivalry and those economic factors there, but it's a bit of a tough line to walk.
I'm not for a Cold War. I'm on the China Select Committee, and I've said that. I'm trying to get it. I have a bipartisan trip that I'm trying to lead to China. I can't get the Republicans to approve it. Yeah. We haven't been able to go to China since pre-COVID. I said, even during the Soviet Union, we talked to each other. We've got to talk to each other. But we do have to be clear-eyed about 2 aspects of the U.S.-China relationship. The trade deficit was a total mistake. I mean, China has a trade deficit with India, Japan, South Korea, and the United States. We hollowed out our working and middle class. We never said, let's have all of Wall Street go to London. We never said, let's have all of Hollywood go to Bollywood. We never did this to any of our coastal elite jobs. And we never said, let's have all of tech go to Estonia or Ukraine. But with manufacturing, we said, let it all go to China. That was a big blunder. So at the top of the U.S.-China relationship needs to be the rebalancing and lowering the trade deficit, which, by the way, is good for them because they have an export production economy at the expense of their own consumer welfare. That's why they have so much economic disparity in China. It's not working for China. So I would lead with that, and I would make it very clear that we have to deter any invasion of Taiwan, that we affirm the one China policy, that this is about a conversation between China and Taiwan, but you can have no coercion and no military invasion of the island of Taiwan. I mean, that would be like Putin invading Ukraine. If you had those 2 frameworks, I think you could be clear-eyed about the threats and challenges China faces while trying to avoid a Cold War. And that's the art of diplomacy and statesmanship.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And based on the jobs that you described, that's also a reorientation of our trade policies as well, which is key. I know we're bumping up against it here. I believe it is 3 o'clock, so we should wrap. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Congressman Khanna. Really appreciate your extended time today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do a quick recap on the Roe meeting. I thought it was okay, but I think you can see now where I'm at for, like, if you launch into the mainstream, the conversations are very, very, very surface level. Like, even you could see that Emma wanted to dig in a bit harder on some issues. She asked some good questions. So she wanted to dig in a bit, like, on the Israel stuff. And there were a couple other questions. It was hard to hear because when they were mic'd, it was hard to hear at a distance. But it sounded like she was asking some pretty tough questions earlier too. But the problem is, like, you let Vigeland get away with the Iraq comment. Yeah, because I'm not in debate mode, okay? He would answer her question and then that's it. And my favorite types of conversations are really big back and forths. Like, I want to get in, and I think Emma wanted to fight too, maybe, yeah. You really want to get into, like, a big back and forth on everything. I think for the Israel one, I think she even asked 2 follow-up questions. And Ro Khanna seems very intelligent. He seems like he must be, he is. He is a very intelligent guy. But it just feels inappropriate to hardcore go back and forth, especially with other people there, and you just have, like, 30 minutes to an hour. And, yeah, it's, I don't know. I think the Ben Shapiro debate is probably going to happen. I need to message. I need to confirm a date for this. Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's still something I'm personally trying to sort through. Like, how do I feel about going deeper? It also feels weird because I thought about this too, like debating a congressman. If you really think about it, that congressman can never change his positions, right? Like, if you want to talk about, like, bought in, or you want to talk about, like, audience capture, a politician's job is literally to be audience captured. Like, am I ever going to convince Ro Khanna that 15 an hour is not a good policy? That's never happening. Also, I don't know if I want to win a debate against him on any issue, because I also thought about this too. It feels weird debating politicians that are on my side in terms of political party, because I don't ever want to make Ro Khanna look bad. So that means I'm either going to be asking him questions to let him explain himself more, in which case he just sounds good and it's a softball interview, or I'm like critically challenging him on issues. But I don't want to do that either, because like, let's say I totally dominate him. Let's go to that end of the spectrum. On one end, I'm like asking him a few questions, and it's like, hey, how do you feel about 15-hour? Oh, it's great, it helps workers. Oh, what do you feel about manufacturing? Our manufacturing is hollowed out. It's not, I think our manufacturing in America is doing really well. But he does that. That's a softball interview. On the other end, we fight, okay? Let's say I absolutely, facts and logic, destroy Rokano at every single point, and now he looks like a bumbling fool. Well, what have I accomplished? I've made a Democratic lawmaker look bad. Why the f would I want to do that? So I feel like debating people who are maybe in primaries, but those people, nobody cares. It doesn't bring any views, and a lot of them are largely irrelevant. That could be one thing. Or debating Republican lawmakers. That would be way more fun. But why the f would you talk to me? Why would you come to an unfriendly, hostile, left-leaning platform, especially one with all the toxicity of the online stuff? If you're like I'm never talking to like a Matt Gaetz or a Jim Jordan. Oh my God, that would be an unbelievable conversation though. If we could dig hard on like Hunter Biden shit or whatever on a Republican lawmaker, oof. But yeah, so I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about a lot of that more, but yeah. Does it change your opinion if they're in a state with a supermajority? No, I don't mind shitting on people online and fighting with like online people, but I don't want to be in the business of like trying to debate, assassinate, you know, like Democrats. It's just not a good, that's not a good utilization of what I do, I don't think. Destiny, so then would it be more that you would want to debate politicians who are already in office, you just don't want to debate them before elections? Well, for primaries, you get a whole bunch of people that are not that important, so yeah, but I don't know. Academic said he's going to Miami soon and wants to interview you for this podcast on Spotify. Oh shit, he should just DM me on Twitter or something. I would talk to me and DJ Ack. That's the real convo I'm waiting for, okay? Fuck all the White House shit, okay? Me and Big Ack need to have a sit down. That's who I'm waiting for. Hell yes. When is the Ben Shapiro debate? I don't want to confirm anything of that yet. We'll see what happens. Right now it's looking like sometime later next month, but we'll see. We don't know yet. Who knows? What did you and Kevils talk about at dinner? I don't know. I don't know if I want to reveal like any private conversations. Nothing is that bombastic, but... Have you confronted Vosh, Emma, Kevils, and how they represent you? Well, Emma apparently doesn't know who I am, so don't have to about her. Vosh is just kind of like pretending like nothing has happened. Kevils seemed pretty apologetic about stuff that's happened in the past. I don't know. Did you see Shapiro's take on your pro clip on the Reddit? Yeah, Shapiro had a dumb take. I don't even think Shapiro would fully... I think he would fully agree with me if we went back and forth on that, but I don't know. It was great seeing a rep do long-form interviews like this. Ro was a step in a great direction. Yeah, the Ro Khanna guy is pretty cool. We know Ro Khanna is cool, though, because we've seen him, like, debate, like, Ben Shapiro and stuff in the past. So, I mean, like, you know that he can do it, which is cool. Would you approach the Shapiro debate trying to be calm and keep the bridge open? I think it would just be a very policy wonky debate. Like, I think we'd go pretty deep into whatever, but we'll see. But it would also be, this would be a heavy research thing. And when I'm back on the 4th, I'm starting my Vyvanse, so we're gonna be in ultra research mode, hopefully. Although I don't know how I feel on Vyvanse compared to the Adderall, but we'll see. Why was Kevils there? Oh, also, hold on. I've banned like 5 people from my fucking subreddit. Every person that you saw there today, these are people that like Brianna is working with and Progressive Victory is working with, Progressive Victory is inviting. People are acting like I'm bringing an entourage or I'm like I brought one friend to this who's not involved in like anything. That's the only person that I've been involved in and like bringing it. So any other like orbiters or whatever people you see on the couch or whatever, people think I'm like telling like, oh, you want me to talk to Ro Khanna? That's not gonna happen unless 7 people from my Discord show up. I've not made any even requests, let alone demands for me to be bringing like any person to any of the fucking events. That's just fucking retarded. If I was gonna bring anybody, I'd bring Karantos. Yeah. Thoughts on Emma acting like she doesn't know you? I don't know why people do that shit. I don't know if she... It might be the fact that I had blue hair before and she legitimately has no idea who I am. Or maybe she was trying to lowbrow... I don't know. I don't care. I'm not... That's just... I don't know. Whatever. The Ryan Grimm guy seemed pretty cool. I don't know how... I feel like him and me fought a lot in the past. When on Hassan's stream and stuff, but I don't remember. It's been a while. Also, I feel like that guy used to be fat. Maybe he never was fat. He looks like a Giga Chad in person. Jesus. Or at least for Gib and everything. Yeah, but I'm not sure. I could be mixing it with someone else, but... Did you see my trolls? I did not, Pisco. I'm so sorry. Oh, maybe Ryan Grimm was a big conspiracy guy for the Bernie stuff, maybe. Thoughts with your sub blowing up with these Vosh friendship enjoyers? I don't know. We'll see what happens. How do Vosh fans reconcile the way he described you in the past, yet still being able to build a coalition with someone he described as so hateful? If I had to guess, just guessing based on... I mean, I follow communities a lot. My guess is going to be that Vosh fans are probably just really happy to see him outside. Also, Vosh fans, as much as they might hate me, will enjoy our interactions because I'm intelligent. I share a lot of... There's a lot of overlap personality-wise, kind of, with me and Vosh. So if you like Vosh, you probably like me. Because my politics are better. But yeah, so like if you like Vosh, you probably like me, and then watching us interact is probably something that his fans would enjoy a lot. Although that's true for Hassan as well. Like Hassan's fans would probably like to watch us fight too. I've always said this is the problem with these like political spaces. Everybody's ego is so fragile and their feelings get hurt so easily. Everybody ends up getting deprived of a ton of content and a ton of viewership. Because like the viewership and the content would be fucking amazing having streams with me and Vosh and me and Hassan and Hassan and Vosh, you know, fighting with each other. But yeah.
Up on that. The loans don't. The government. The loans aren't government spending.
You don't really. It's funny. That's not an example of me being dumb. That's an example of you being dumb. You didn't understand what I'm actually getting at. But, and I'm
No,
not sure Douglas.
I do. I do.
Okay, I don't think
you're saying the buck stops with the U.S. government. If the loan is in U.S. denominated in U.S. dollars, and the loan is not paid back, someone is on the hook for that money.
I'm saying if the government is the ultimate entity that creates money, okay, right? The government is the thing that the government creates money, and that puts the government in debt by creating money, and that's the creation of money doesn't put the government in debt.
There you go.
Creating the money and then spending the money, right, puts the government in debt, right? You agree with this?
Yes, but
I am the only survivor from our caravan attacked by the centaur. A rare yet mighty panther is guarding my best gizmo, which is around his neck. Ha! Even the centaur tremble in the presence of this ferocious beast. Here is the key to the cage. They took everything there but left him alone. Slay this beast and bring back my hypercapacitor, and I shall reward you. The wrecked caravan is just north of here.
Vengeance! So the legend of Arikara is true. Indeed, this is a problem that must be resolved immediately. Arikara is a deadly creature that must be dealt with swiftly. In order to hunt her down, you will need to light the sacred fire of life. This will summon Arikara. Go now and harvest the rare Incendia agave plant. Once you have harvested enough agave, seek counsel with Magatha Grimtotem on Elder Rise in Thunderbluff. She is a powerful shaman that can enchant the agave plant to create a powder that will light the fire. Travel northeast to the boiling pool and gather Incendia agave. They come to kill me? I will show them how a Tauren fights. But there may be more centaur than I thought, I ask you, adventurer, to fight with me against these vile assassins. That's still recharging.
Okay.
Thank you for your help, adventurer. I couldn't have held them off without you.
If the government basically taps a person on the shoulder and says, we're giving you an ounce of our power to create money and spend it, right? What I'm saying is that, well, then shouldn't it theoretically still be government debt? Because it's the government's the government is granting this power to someone else to do the thing that the government does.
the difference is the loan they want the money back. And when the government spends the money, they don't have to tax it back.
Okay. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It doesn't quite address my question, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, Oh, I just want to say it's funny. In the beginning of this clip, Hassan's like, I don't want to say that he has to be poor to like talk about these issues. Of course, Hassan is saying that because he's a rich asshole who all he does is talk about, you know, the issues affecting poor people.
Right. Yeah.
Lad Gadfly for $20. Thank you. Says, trying to catch up, but just heard this guy's an enlightened centrist. Think he'll come here to the home of enlightened centrism? Would love for us to get a celebrity for once. There you go. Maybe. First of all, we've had plenty of celebrities.
Yeah, I was going to say, what the hell? We're doing pretty good as far in the celebrity realm.
I think Lad was teasing us, but that'd be interesting. That'd be cool.
Oh, okay. I get it. It was a joke.
Right.
I mean, we haven't had Tom Cruise on the show or anything.
That is true. That's the big booking we're trying to get for.
I mean, Critical Drinker talked to Russell Crowe. I think that's like, I mean, obviously,
that's pretty big.
He's a giant international celebrity. So
right.
Yeah, he's got us beat. We can't even get to 100,000 subs. I don't know how this. I have been skeptical when people talk about YouTube suppression and stuff. I mean, I don't understand how we get the kind of views we get and we can't even get to 100K subscribers.
Well, it either means, I guess it means that either a lot of people don't subscribe or it's just that we have like really excellent, because like a lot of times, like you have like a huge subscriber base, but only a fraction watches the content, right? So it's possible that we don't have that, even if we don't have like 100,000 subs. It's just that the majority of our subscribers will watch most of our content.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well. Yeah. So it's better. That's a better situation than being one of these socialists that starts a channel immediately and gets like 1 million subscribers. Look, I'm Adam something. I have 2 million subscribers overnight.
I don't know if I agree with this, but okay.
What?
I mean,
it would be nice. Yeah, exactly. You got to make some socialist videos. Do you think we could make socialist videos that had enough inside jokes that we could get away with it, that socialists would believe that, oh, these guys are socialists. Subscribe.
No, you know what? See, this is what I should do. Before I do the face reveal, I should create a second channel that will be a socialist channel. Right, and it'll be me with my face reveal, and I'll be like super advocating for socialism and everything. Maybe I'll slightly like change the pitch of my voice in one direction so it's not super obvious.
Right.
And then when that channel gets popular enough, then I'll do the face reveal on this channel.
Oh, that would be so good.
And I'll see how long it takes people to notice. Or no, here's the goal. Okay, we'll set up a debate. After my socialist channel like gets really big, we'll start a feud between, like, we'll do a review of my socialist videos, and we'll talk about how much my socialism videos suck ass. And that will start.
We'll review you.
Yeah, we'll review me. This is a perfect idea. We could create content for ourselves to review on this channel. How have we not done this before? This is brilliant. Okay, then we'll create a fake feud, and then it will culminate in a massive debate that everyone is super pumped to see.
This will keep me busy for a while until I can figure out what it does.
Massive debate. Sitch versus whatever the fuck the socialist version of Sitch is named.
Right.
And then it comes on a stream, and we're all sitting around like, where's the debate? Where's the debate? And it's just me. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm here. It was always me.
I'm here
from
to
the beginning.
debate myself.
God, that'd be mind-blowing.
We should
do that. We're going to do that, okay? We're going to delay the face reveal for another year, everyone, to allow me to have a year to start a socialist
so we can build up this channel.
Right. Get ready.
I mean, making content is hard enough. I can't imagine making content we hate. Pain.
I wonder if you could get sued for that. Is that fraud?
For pretending to be a socialist?
Yeah, to like get money out of people. Like if I had like a Patreon and stuff and people donated to it, just content. Would that be illegal?
Can you,
Mr. Ubercross, would that be illegal?
I'm not sure you can. I mean, you've heard the saying, a fool and his money is soon parted, right?
Right.
All right, let's get back to this.
Twitter sucks. Thank you so much for the 20 gifted memberships. Thank you.
Wow. Welcome new members.
Thank you, Twitter.
I love having new members.
Twitter sucks for another $20 says, I don't listen to you guys at all. Here's some money to keep talking. Thank you. Twitter sucks for another $20. Thank you so much. Our surrogate god uncle for $20.
Making it rain.
Making it rain today. It says this guy complains that he's a wage slave, but he's still an evil white capitalist. There you go. True. And Josh Kesley for $20. Thanks so much, Josh. Stock Richard says, what if Sitch looks like Matt Walsh? That's the real question.
Sitch does look a little like Matt Walsh. He could grow a beard out.
I mean, I can grow a beard. That's true.
Are you going to grow a beard?
No.
You should grow a Leonidas beard.
No.
Just for the face reveal. That'd be so awesome.
That'd be stupid.
Why?
No.
And will attack the actual vectors of oppression. Do you understand? It's not new. This isn't like a new type of music or a new type of song. Plenty of examples of coal miners getting fucked over with a boss, where the direction with sung in this exact same style, with this same voice inflection, turning around and redirecting the anger at those who actually have caused their demise, rather than, random people that are also just as poor as this guy claims to be. You know what I mean?
So Hassan's worldview of this guy is that he's essentially, the reason he hates this guy is he views him as kind of like a liberal. When I say liberal, I mean like liberalism, like a liberal subverter of class consciousness. That you would have all these people that would, that would get together as part of the class to enact a socialist revolution. And then you got Oliver over here pointing the finger in the wrong direction, and then the mob goes in that direction. And Hassan's sitting there like, no, we need to tear down the capitalists. No.
Yeah, he definitely has taken some of his thunder on the capitalism thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's ironic that, I mean, Hassan doesn't understand that there's two types of poor people here. There's really the working poor and the lazy fuck. And I don't see how you can put those two people on the same moral plane. Like, I do think it's interesting that conservatives kind of believe in karma. Like, and they see people like Hassan wanting to subvert the law of karma because they want people to get what they deserve. And if you're a lazy fuck, you should be poor. That's kind of the way they look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of societies like distinguishing, who is pitching in, who is pulling their own weight. It's like the bootstraps thing. Like I said, a lot of people perceive of conservatives when they say pull yourself up by your bootstraps, they're talking about pitching in, carrying your own weight, that kind of thing. And leftists see that as you're on your own, do it by yourself. There's no help for you. Like if you're going to work hard and there's help, like that's why this song resonates with a lot of people. They say, look, I'm working hard. Why am I barely getting by? Why am I struggling? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a completely different mindset. And that is completely lost on Hassan. Hassan doesn't care. Hassan doesn't think about these things in any kind of detail. He doesn't think about reciprocity, people pulling their own weight. He doesn't care.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the Democrats would have a lot more persuasive power if they could structure or advocate for structuring welfare in some way that would incentivize work. Because that's the chief complaint of, like, a good way to understand sort of what like the other argument is to understand kind of like the straw man version they attack you with, because it shows you where their moral intuition lies.
Yep, that's a great point.
So because when the right complains about welfare, they say, oh, you just want people to live off the government, right? That's their complaint. Whether you think that that's actually happening or not, that's their straw man, that's their complaint. People are just going to live off the government, and that's what the Democrats want.
Right.
And so if you could structure welfare and advocate for welfare to be structured in a system where it does incentivize work, it does incentivize people to not be on it forever, I think you get a lot of people on the right and a lot of people in these rural communities on board with that.
Of course, yeah. Because you cater to their moral intuitions that people need to carry their own weight. And if they don't, they need to go live under the bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem is that contradicts That's not the left wing's moral intuition. Because the left wing's moral intuition is, well, the person who doesn't want to work, it's not their fault, or there's all these other factors that are preventing them from succeeding, internally, externally. So they're more like trying to be more sympathetic, right? If I was going to use a nice word for it. So they don't actually agree with that moral intuition at all.
Here comes the mother hen. Oh,
right.
Oh, society was mean to you.
Yes.
Look, it's right for you not to work because society was unfair. Society was unfair to you.
Right.
Here, let me fix all your problems. Let me take money from this other guy over here who's working hard and give it to you, the lazy fuck. Look, they're just stupid. This is why people are insulted by this stuff, because that's literally, he spells it out in this song and everybody gets it except for this dumb fuck. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're doing this video.
Well, I think
because this stupid moron here doesn't get it. Look,
I think that's why.
How can he get it? He hasn't worked a day in his life. Sid.
Well, wait. Let's be fair. Hassan has worked a lot, okay, but he's always been on the upswing, right? Like he was born.
This is not work, Sitch. We're laughing and having fun on the internet.
True. It's not okay. Let's say it's not hard work, right? It's not hard work. It's work. It's not hard work.
I worked in a factory, and every day.
Yeah,
I
know.
thought,
I know. I hear you.
This fucking sucks.
Yes.
I was like, why? Look, why am I even living? This is horrendous.
Right, and that's the energy that Oliver is singing about. Yeah.
I'm gonna go live under the bridge. This factory shit sucks. The bridge, look, is more enticing.
But see, this is why I think if there's like the stereotype exists, and I think it is true, where you have a lot of these people that are socialists, that are like really adamant about their kind of socialist beliefs, they grew up usually in a fairly comfortable financial situation.
Yeah, their moms and dads wiping their ass all day long.
Right, and so they want that experience for other people. And when you look at a lot of other people that aren't socialist, they grew up from a much more harsher experience.
Yeah. And their parents taught them, listen, you got to pull your own weight.
Right.
This world is unfair. This world will treat you unfairly, and you better get used to that.
Yeah. I'm curious to how long Hassan's family was poor, because my understanding was that his family was very wealthy, and then at some point, I don't know when and how long, at some point his father blew their money on some bad investments or something, squandered their money.
Really?
Yes. But then obviously, Cenk started Young Turks, and
Dad
obviously,
comes home, son, we're poor now.
I mean, essentially, that's the way he tells the story. I don't know what actually happened.
This sounds like bullshit to me.
There's like pictures of like teenage Hassan like riding horses, wearing ridiculous, fancy, that ridiculous outfit that you You always see like the rich people wear when they ride the horses, right? Like, so I wonder. So I am curious. Like when Hassan tells this story, he's trying to like give himself. It's kind of like the person who's like, "Oh, I grew up on the streets," right? The rapper's like, "I grew up on the streets," and it's like, "Nah, they're fucking middle class, like the whole life. What the fuck are they talking about, right?" So I wonder if Hassan, it feels like he's kind of trying to pretend like he, lived through some sort of very hard economic time. Now maybe he did. I don't know the answer to the question, but I am curious.
I'm leaning towards bullshit. To be honest
skeptical
with
as
you.
well too. Yeah, I'm skeptical too.
And I don't think you know, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end. 'Cause the rich man, 'cause the rich man.
Oliver Anthony is an Appalachian country artist in the same vein as Tyler Childers and Zach Bryan. I mean, he will probably get very successful. He seemingly has that rural charisma. Weird question, but would you ever consider getting this guy on stream to chat about the issues he thinks about before Matt Walsh and his ilk get to him properly? I think
Look, a sensible person.
Look at that. Yeah. Why don't you talk to this guy? Yeah.
A sensible person.
You have a massive platform, Hassan. I'm sure he would like to talk to you.
Oh my goodness. What is he? What's the response here? Let's see.
Matt Walsh and his ilk have gotten to him already. Rich men of North Richmond.
Shit.
So he just said no. He's already been got to. He's already been brainwashed by
one retweet from Matt Walsh, and now he's been claimed.
It's gone. Why don't you try to save his soul? Save him, Hassan.
Yeah.
I know he's scary because he's white and he's from a rural America. Okay, I know that scares you, but save his soul. Maybe you can make him a socialist.
Well, he's going to ask him questions. He's going to say, listen, Hassan, that car in the garage looked very, very expensive. Are you sure you're the right person to be speaking on issues of the working class?
And
Hassan's going to say, get the fuck out of here.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, no. He's going to ask a bunch of really uncomfortable questions. This guy, I watched a couple videos of this guy, and he seems completely sincere.
I haven't seen any of the interviews that he's done. So.
Does Hassan strike you as a sincere person?
Of course not.
Okay. So, look, normally when a sincere person interacts with an insincere person, both parties recognize the social dynamic pretty quickly. Yeah. And things can fall apart. They can go south.
So I Google searched Oliver Anthony centrism.
Right.
Centrist. The first article. Uh-oh, my phone. I said Google and my phone went off. Okay. So the
you
first
said, okay, Google.
Yeah, I know. So Variety has an article called Oliver Anthony, Richmond's north of Richmond, is an instant smash among conservatives, while progressives wonder, is he a plant?
Oh my God. This charge that right-wingers are the conspiracy nuts and left-wingers have not a conspiracy-minded thought in their heads.
I know.
Is ridiculous.
It's funny because I'm sure you remember, when the Tea Party got big, that was the whole charge, that it was all astroturf. It was all fake.
Oh, you're right.
The Koch brothers created the Tea Party. These people don't have these real thoughts and feelings. It's all a conspiracy.
Yeah.
So
it's
the article
always
says,
a conspiracy.
Is the viral sensation Oliver Anthony too good to be true? Too right to be true? Or is he an authentic working class hero? Let's see what the article says. The suspicions of progressive music fans have largely to do with the fast numbers he's racked up as an independent artist with supposedly no industry backing whatsoever. Isn't that hilarious? Like, we live in a time where people can put out a song or something that like just completely explodes and goes viral. But if it has a supposedly right-wing message, it's just, it must be a conspiracy. The video racked up 12 million views in 6 days. The red bearded upstart, it's an interesting phrase, accumulated 300,000 Twitter X followers. Don't you like how articles now have to say Twitter/X? Because if they just put X, people are like, what are they talking about?
Do you think Elon's doing this to get even with the journalists?
So it makes it weird to talk about Twitter?
Yeah.
Maybe. On the iTunes download chart, he has the top 3 song as of this writing and 5 of the top 10. And while paid downloads are hardly a solid measure of broadcast success, Anthony's breakout tune has cracked top 10 on a much more indicative one, Spotify's daily US top 50. It's a phenomenon not unlike the recent rise of Jason Aldean's similarly right-rousing Try That in a Small Town, but with a literally friendlier face. I mean, I think, and Tim wants to talk about this, which I think is true. I think these songs are indication of there is an idea that is very persuasive, that is very in tune with a lot of Americans, both moderate and conservative, that believes that there are problems in our society that woke crap is making worse or not addressing. And I think that's why these songs was part of why these songs are taking off.
I agree.
Let's see if the article goes into conspiracy. Okay. Where's the centrist come up? Because
I'm sending you the transcript from the video. I'll send you a link to the video, but in the video he says, I'll say this, I sit pretty dead center down the aisle on politics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Based.
This is a video that was sent to me.
Okay, the article says, but if an artist is known by the fans they keep, the highest... Oh, you like this? You like this Variety article? If an artist is known...
fans they keep.
Yes, if an artist is known by the fans they keep...
You get to pick your fucking fans.
Yeah, apparently. The highest profile fans Anthony has quickly accumulated are very much on the right side of the aisle. Insta supporters like former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Carrie Lake, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and firebrand commentator, they should really say ethno-nationalist.
Matt Walsh.
Right? Yeah. Matt Walsh. And former Mumford & Sons banjoist turned political gadfly Winston Marshall, and far-right country figure John Rich, who said he's had a long conversation with Anthony and offered to produce and finance a full album. If Anthony wants to prove the centrism he professes, you like this feels familiar to you at all?
This feels very familiar. I'm actually getting a little PTSD here.
Yeah. If Anthony wants to prove the centrism he professes by picking up some less partisan public figures as fans, he may have his work cut out for him, given the way he's instantly been embraced as a hero to the right. Isn't that how, like, that sentence says everything, okay?
It does. It says, listen, people on the left and right can't even like the same fucking song.
Right. It's like, oh, well, because these right-wing people like him, the left's going to have a hard time acknowledging whether they like it or not, because they can't like the same thing.
That's so stupid, Sitch. That's so brain dead.
Yep.
Look, does that mean if the right decides that they like beer, the left can't like beer?
Yes.
What about ice cream?
Yeah,
it feels like both sides should like ice cream.
Yeah,
Who
but
doesn't like ice cream?
Because like if you're like a leftist, you have to eat the socialist Ben and Jerry's, right?
It's segregated by brand.
And it's like, oh, if you're on the right,
I'm talking about segregated by category. Complete.
Well, there are certain things where like ice cream and beer, people like too much, so they'll segregate on brand instead of like the actual item itself. Yeah.
So stupid.
Yep. But anyway, let's continue.
I think you know what I think would be amazing?
What?
If Donald Trump came out and said how much he loves Ben and Jerry ice cream. What do you think?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, what do you think would happen?
Yeah.
If he came out and said, listen, my favorite ice cream is Ben and Jerry's.
Right. I don't know.
Because all the lefties fucking love their Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Do you think they would immediately be like, I can't eat Ben and Jerry's anymore? Like, would that just eviscerate their sales base?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It'd be interesting. It'd be like, like 4chan making the OK sign racist. Can Donald Trump make Ben and Jerry's
Please
racist?
help me, adventurer.
Right?
I've been hiding here in High Perch for some time.
Ben and Jerry's would have to come out and make a
I've seen
statement,
friendly
a public
face.
statement.
I came here to study
Oh my
the
God.
wyvern, and I think I got a little too close.
I just had the most
After
brilliant.
being chased away from one of the nests, I got lost. I need to get back to White Reach Post. Motega does not know that I am missing and will be furious to know that I ventured into High Perch by myself. Whitereach Post is just east of here. Please take me there.
An idea. This is so evil. I don't even know if I should say this idea because this idea is too powerful.
My idea was evil. Your idea is probably
this idea
mid-level
so
evil.
Okay, you say that. Here you go. Okay, listen. Donald Trump endorsing Ben and Jerry's is not going to do anything, right? Because everyone's going to know it's like and it doesn't matter. Like it's like a troll or something. What the move here, okay, you do, is you don't have to buy Ben and Jerry's. You have to associate the brand with something really negative.
Right.
Okay. So like 4chan was able to associate the OK sign as a troll to like, oh, it really means white power, right? And then when someone like a Trump, when his son tweets out something with the OK sign or does the OK sign, the media uses that as an opportunity to beat Trump over the head. So the move there is you take something you don't like Ben and Jerry's, right? And you associate.
I love Ben and Jerry's, by the way. So.
Well, you shouldn't because they're fucking run by socialist pieces of shit. But
true, but it is delicious ice cream.
Okay.
So.
What a capitalist. But you take Ben and Jerry's.
You associate it with something.
Yeah, you take the brand, the name of Ben and Jerry's. You don't need the ice cream, just the name of it. You take the brand of it,
right,
and you associate it with something nefarious. Okay?
Right. Like Nazis.
Right. Someone on 4chan thinks of some racist fucking thing to associate Ben and Jerry's with that like makes some kind of semblance of sense. Okay. You have this meme kind of blow up like in the space, and then you got to get like Donald Trump Jr.'s son to like tweet something out about Ben and Jerry's so that the media can use it to say, he's a secret white nationalist. So that you get this association of Ben and Jerry's has this negative association forever as being like racist.
Right. Yeah.
That's the move.
You want to put Ben and Jerry's in the OK hand sign situation.
Yes.
Where every time you see Ben and Jerry's, you just think Richard Spencer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
you
the
just
move.
think Adolf Hitler.
That's how you trigger the hell out of Ben and Jerry's, the people that run Ben and Jerry's, right?
Interesting.
So that's the move.
Could work.
Is the name of the song. Okay, let's pull up the lyrics. Wish I could just wake up and not be true, but it is. We are now political slaves to a master class of politicians that can never be charged, but his enemy will always be charged and never guilty. Living in the new world with an old soul. These rich men of north of Richmond, DC. Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think? Want to know what you do? Dude. Always so fucking fun.
What the fuck was that?
You like that? Did you like that edit?
Yeah, I did actually.
So
what a crazy man.
Isn't it interesting that so much of Hassan's audience is so ideologically in lockstep, or he believes they are, that he doesn't even have to make arguments. He just says things and then laughs.
I know.
And it's like, you're all supposed to just understand. I mean, I guess he's laughing because he's like, oh, he's complaining about the government control because only right wingers complain about government control. So, it's not like the left has never complained about government control, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course not.
It's not like the left has a total conspiracy about how there's government controlling, black people and non-white people in order to subjugate them.
Well, aside from white supremacy,
right,
which is a pretty big thing in their minds.
But this is why, so many Americans hear all this woke shit, and it not only does it not resonate with them, but and not only does it bother them because it's racist, it bothers them on some like insanely deep level. Because if you're someone living in a rural area and you've had to work, and you're white, and you've had to work very hard your whole life, and you've never, made a lot of money, and you have this like fucking coastal elite, piece of shit come at you about how you have all this privilege because you're white, and how the system is completely structured to your benefit and all this other stuff, you're like enraged. You're like, what are you fucking talking about? This isn't like, I've had to struggle for everything, and I've been poor, and I grew up poor, and I'm still poor, and you're just some fucking coastal elite snob is telling me how this system is structured to my benefit just because I'm white? What the fuck what are you smoking?
Yeah, it's completely insulting.
Yeah, of course. And of course it's not. Of course, huge swaths of the country are going to rebel against this message. It's just a total slap in the face. And it's insane.
Yeah, it's evil.
Where Matt watched post shit like this, knowing they would be scared to stop in a gas station from my rural hometown. Grew up in a rural town where average household income was $27K or something, and everyone complains about welfare and disability, but majority of people are on it. That's what I mean. It's like, and they don't think but I know that you do, because your dollar ain't shit,
What?
and it's taxed to no end because of rich men.
Swift Mountain was going to snoop around High Perch, I would have chained him to a totem. His father was reluctant, allowing him to come with me to Thousand Needles. We came here to study the different creatures that inhabit these beautiful lands. I appreciate the help you have shown Pauka. I hope this covers any misfortunes this deed has cost you.
North of Richmond. I wish politicians would look out for minors, and not just minors on an island somewhere. That's bars. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. I live in Section 8 housing in Detroit. My haters will not come for me. I mean, it doesn't matter where you live. The reality is most of your haters, or most haters online, are haters because they don't go out in the real world at all. They do not step foot outside. They live on a steady diet of chicken tendies that mommy brings them, and that's
what the fuck?
Let's have a moment of silence, because the concept of irony died.
There was some major projection going on here. We might have to re-listen to that for a second.
If irony was a person, they got so excited by that statement they had a heart attack and died. Okay.
Yes. What the fuck?
Is that not the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard?
He's been listening to the Mahler stream.
Hassan is the last person on the face of Earth that could ever throw the accusation of being detached from the normal world because they have their mom bring them nuggies.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in this video or it's in the other video that I was watching that was from yesterday. Hassan literally has his father bring him food in the middle of the street.
I know, this has got to be a troll, man.
I was like, what the fuck?
He's got the nuggies on his mind. It must be lunchtime over there.
Maybe this is like code. His mom's in the room and he's like trying to snipe at her, like, get me my nuggies. Get me my nuggies, bitch. Isn't it? It's so insulting too. That you have some multimillionaire living in Hollywood telling people to touch grass in the real world. You think this bitch knows what it's like to live in the real world?
Of course not. His mom and dad are on nuggie patrol. Like, look, if you're in a situation where you got 24-hour nuggie service, you do not live in the real world.
No.
Yeah. Look,
That's
most
pretty much
normal
it.
people get a wife to do that shit. What the fuck? Isn't this guy in his 30s? He's still got his mom bringing him nuggies.
Why would he get married? Okay, he's a rich, famous streamer. He just wants to, fuck around forever.
This is just, yeah. look, I was so anxious to get out of the house. Like,
well, it's his house.
Oh, I guess you're right. Right. Yeah. He's so. I just can't imagine living in a world where I'm so anxious to let my parents move back in with me.
Right.
Look, I just escaped your house. Why do you want to move in with me?
What brings you
Because if they would walk outside.
For my gratitude, this is for you, adventurer. Adventurer, you have served us well in the past, so I now entrust to you an important mission. The Grim Totem clan is up to something secretive. 3 agents of unknown origin were seen visiting the Grim Totem over the recent weeks. We discovered that separate chests in Dark Cloud Pinnacle hold these guarded messages. Adventurer, if you succeed in this dangerous mission, I will reward you in kind. Perfect! With these eggs, I hope to take the next step to become a Windrider. Here is a token of my appreciation. May good hunting always shine upon you, adventurer.
And see the sunlight for the first time, or have to interact with another human, they would perish. They would turn into a cloud of mist, pink mist, and dust. I love the Lord. We got folks on the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and
so we're simultaneously insulting white working class people, and simultaneously, all these white working class people. There's also a magic group of people that exist as internet trolls that never go outside, and I guess are being provided for by their parents or the government or something. They never go outside. All right.
Yeah. A lot of trust fund kids. What's he trying to say?
I don't know.
these obese milking welfare. Like, again, it hits on everything that I love. Okay, I'm serious. I love this song. I love this song because in many ways this is the most American song. Why? Because not only is he like LARPing as a poor guy, shitting on other types of poor guys.
He's not really poor. He's LARPing as a poor guy.
That's the difference between him and the shoplifters. You don't understand. Right. The shoplifters are not LARPing as a poor person. He's not only does he have white privilege, he's LARPing as actually proletariat.
So
when this guy just screams bourgeoisie.
Even though he was working, very low wages in a paper mill for years, fractured his skull at job, recovered from that and started to work in sales and was able to save up enough money to buy land to try to start a small business, and now lives in a $700 camper.
All of that is a psyop.
It's a LARP.
All of that is a complete Fed psyop. Look, I can't believe you're falling for this.
You're right.
Listen to Hassan Abi, man. He knows what he's talking about. He sees right through this.
Well, he doesn't know because, he hears that acreage and he's thinking, like, obviously to have that in his realm, you'd be like a billionaire, right?
Of course, yeah. 90 acres in Los Angeles. Holy shit.
Right.
We're putting in a development, honey.
He doesn't understand that there are swaths of the country where acreage is like very, very, very cheap.
Yeah.
Because, that's why farms exist out there in rural lands, because the land is very cheap. You need a lot of land, and the land is very cheap out there because it's in the middle of nowhere. That's the whole point.
Asking the government to help poor people, but also simultaneously shitting on other poor people that are getting help and the type of help that they're getting, and also shitting on fat people, but you're fat. It's like, what do you mean? What is happening? Anyway, let's continue. This song is about rural consciousness, though. It's just about rural consciousness. Okay. What does that mean? There's this idea where, like, if someone looks the part, fits the bill, and is like, I don't even have, first of all, let me just say something. I don't think this is like as disagreeable as the way Twitter is making it out to be. But that doesn't mean that, like, you can't, crack jokes about it. Especially when it's one of my trigger points, at least, when I see, like I've mentioned 8 times so far, when a poor guy or someone who is LARPing as a poor guy is shitting on other poor guys. It's just so frustrating. It is supposed to build up the other poor guys and instill class consciousness rather than shit on a different kind of poor person. Having said all of that, there's also this idea that, like, possibly due to a...
So if it's true okay, let's say hypothetically it's true, that there aren't, you know, there aren't a bunch of people just mooching off welfare, and everyone's working poor who's on welfare or receiving government assistance. And so it would be a waste of time and energy and a misdirection of energy and be part of the bourgeoisie conspiracy of the elite class to direct away class consciousness, right? To trick, you know, working poor and working class white people in rural areas to believe that there's a conspiracy of, you know, people mooching off welfare, right? Or let's say black people, because that's really the undertones that Hassan's kind of going for right now.
Really?
Why?
Okay.
Like, why doesn't Hassan attempt to dispel that myth? If he thinks that's true, why doesn't he attempt to argue that point, dispel that myth, put it out there? Or this is why this is why Hassan is so like a joke. Okay. So people criticize Hassan because he's a socialist who doesn't actually practice any of these principles, right, that he preaches at all.
Right. He has no principles.
And if I'm Hassan, and like if I'm in Hassan's place, and I'm like, okay, I'm like one of the largest streamers in the world, and I know that I have a lot of power because of that, and I can basically have access to a lot of people. I could probably set up a conversation with this guy or with someone. It doesn't even have to be a public conversation. It could be a private conversation, right? Because the tones can be very different. Like, why would I not try to leverage that power to try to convince this guy of my argument? Like, wouldn't you want him to be on your side and say, oh, listen, I really like your song. I really agree that, like, there's a lot of poor people, you know, who are being screwed over. But I think that, like, your aim here is off a little bit, and here's why. Like, why would you not try to leverage your power that he has to try to create some sort of positive change in the world?
Well, Hassan has a no clout sharing policy. I don't know if you know about this, but Hassan would not do anything like that because he would perceive of it as sharing his clout with this other content creator. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I think it's just because he's lazy.
I think he's selfish is really what I think. Yeah. I think that's where the no clout sharing policy comes from. Like, we all often try to lift up smaller, like Doug is a small content creator, right? Coming on our channel is an opportunity.
We're small content creators. We're lifting ourselves up.
Well, we're bigger than a lot of people out here trying to do stuff.
That is true.
Well, we usually try to give people a leg up, right? Obviously, other people have tried to give us a leg up.
Of course.
That's kind of the way of the world. Hassan doesn't work that way. Okay, Hassan doesn't try to give anyone a leg up. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about giving him, like, he could literally have these conversations in private, like, from a completely cynical perspective. Okay, if I'm Hassan and I'm a socialist, my thought would be like, okay, you have this guy, like, I'm a socialist. Okay, this is gonna be a massive thought experiment because it's hard for me to imagine being a socialist. But if I was a socialist and if I was Hassan, right, I would think, okay, you have this guy, he's a singer who's blown up on the right, even though it doesn't have to be, and he's talking about class consciousness and he's talking about, like, the plight of poor people. Something that I want to get behind. I think that's important. I would love for the right in America to care about the plight of the working poor, right? If I'm really a socialist, I'm supposed to care about this shit. And then I would think, okay, but I think that his aim about the causes of this are a little off, right? Why would I not try to then turn around and convince this guy? It could be privately, it doesn't have to be publicly. Why would I not try to convince this guy to become an ally? To be like, listen, like, you know, I agree with all, you know, your inclinations, everything you're saying. But I think the cause is like this, X, Y, Z. Like that. Why would you not do that? That seems such an obvious thing you'd want to do.
Well, I think, look, obviously you and I would like to make the world a better place. If that was within our power, we would endeavor to do that. A lot of the questions we have on the show is, you know, how much is that even really achievable? I think you misunderstand why I bring up Hassan's no clout rule. The no clout rule is evidence to his character in that he doesn't give a fuck about helping other people. So the idea
Right,
that you would collaborate with this guy because you think, oh, maybe we could get some legislation passed, or he's got obviously catching lightning in a bottle here and talking about the plight of the working class. Maybe we can work on income inequality or something, right?
Yes.
Like $15 an hour minimum wage. This guy comes out and says, I'm for $15 an hour minimum wage. Like, all of a sudden, everyone's voting for that. I love that guy's song. I'm voting for $15 an hour minimum wage.
Right.
Hassan would never do that because he doesn't give a fuck about $15 an hour minimum wage. And the no clout rule is just evidence of that. Like, he won't even help a smaller content creator who's a fucking socialist. Why would this guy help anyone to do anything? He's the most selfish motherfucker on the planet. He doesn't even understand the song. This guy is doing a bunch of shows now, and he's staying after the shows 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, talking to people just to hear their story to make them feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different mindset.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Hassan doesn't care about anyone, man. Hassan, this is why I can do these videos about Hassan. It's exactly like Mickey Rourke's character in Sin City. When he walks down the alleyway and he's getting ready to, beat up, kill the hitman. He says, I love hitmen. Because whatever you do to them, you don't feel bad. That's fucking Hassan. Hassan is a piece of shit, selfish motherfucker who doesn't give a fuck about anyone but himself and maybe his mom and dad. So whatever I say about him, look, I don't feel bad. I sleep well at night knowing Hassan is a piece of shit and had it coming, right? If we did this kind of video with any other creator, I would be like, oh my God, I think I was a little hard. Look, even Jangles, like, fuck, I can only be so mean to Jangles. Like, Hassan, there's an infinite amount of hatred in my heart for Hassan, okay? It's not the kind of hatred I have for other content creators, especially content creators that are just trying to get by, right? So, yeah. If one day I have the joy of driving around Los Angeles and seeing Hassan homeless under a bridge, I would be like, thank God. Like, there is some justice in the world.
Tell us how you really feel about his son.
I'm just look. You would know the story too. You'd be like, "Oh my God, he was filthy rich. What the hell happened?" No,
I agree.
He made bad investments. He gambled it away in Vegas. Who knows? He's spending on hookers and blow. Like, this guy is. That's his mindset. That's his attitude.
J-Mac, our surrogate father, says Hassan isn't a champagne socialist. He's a natty light socialist. Man is a total dude bro who wears his politics like a Supreme shirt. He embodies Chud more than any one right winger does. He's slung the pejorative at. True, I agree.
100% accurate.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
The Riz for $20 says started listening in 2020, but first time super chatter. Well, thank you, Riz. That's awesome. I figure I got enough free content. Thanks for making my Tuesdays at work easier. Well, you're welcome.
I love those comments. We get a lot of comments from people that are like, thank God this stream is 8 hours. I don't have to change the podcast my entire shift.
Right.
And I always think, Sitch and Adam show is working class. It makes me feel good. It warms my heart just to know people are at a long day at some dumb fucking job and they can listen to this and it makes their job that much easier.
Exactly. No longer do you have to download the audio track of a movie like Adam used to do.
I used to
put
do
it on
that.
a cassette tape and listen to it, endlessly as he works. You can listen to super long form content like this.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have that. Look, I had to flip the fucking tape over every 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's terrible.
Sometimes every hour. Yeah.
William Staley, thanks so much for $20. Says, fellas, are you getting the feeling that there's a uniparty approved opposition rebellion theater? It's the Hunger Games after President Rose figured out it's easier to pay for predictable mobs. Am I getting the feeling there's a uniparty approved opposition? I mean, I wasn't really getting that feeling from this. Well, I guess what I don't know, like who's the uniparty opposition, because it seems like the Republicans overwhelmingly are still, and the Republican politicians are still overwhelmingly supporting Trump, right? He wouldn't be the I'm assuming he would not be the uniparty opposition.
I don't know.
So
I saw a thing, might have been a Young Turks story, where they were talking about Vivek Ramaswamy being only running to be a spoiler candidate for DeSantis.
Yeah, I saw that headline. I didn't read the story, so I didn't know what they were talking about.
We're actually covering, guys, tomorrow. Sitch and I are going to stream after the Republican debate. I don't think we're going to watch it with you guys, but we're going to watch it and take notes, and we're going to come back. And my goal is just to look at it from moral foundations theory perspective and try to judge the moral content that they're speaking. And Sitch and I are going to do a live stream afterwards.
Yeah, because usually if you try to stream the actual debate, you get hit with like 1 million copyright claims or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so if you guys want, listen tomorrow. I don't know what time it is. Is it probably like 8 or 9 or something, probably?
Right.
But listen or watch the Republican debate, and then right after it ends, we'll go live and we'll give our thoughts and perspectives on who won,
I'll
who
set
did
up a
good,
live
who did bad,
stream.
what were the moral foundations being triggered in the conversation.
Yeah, I know people kind of want our take anyway, so.
Yes.
You don't even have to watch the Republican debate. We'll just tell you. We'll summarize it for
I guess
you.
that's true. Yeah, maybe you don't want to watch it. We'll just summarize it for you. That's true.
Who wants to watch that boring-ass debate, right?
True. Trump isn't going to be there.
Jank actually had a good nickname for Ramaswamy.
What was that?
That I was like, how did Trump not... Actually, it wasn't Jank. It was Anna.
Oh, okay.
Because Jank's nickname was Rama Slimy. And Anna said... it's Jank, it's Rama Swampy. It's like right there in front of you. Yeah. And I was like,
wow.
Look, who's got the big brain at DYT, right?
Good job, Anna. That's pretty good.
Because it totally goes against, well, I guess, yeah, because, that would be perceived as no, it'd be perfect. It would totally play into Trump's, because DeSantis doesn't want to hit too hard on Trump, so.
Yeah, but I don't think
Swampy would be like, look, this guy's swamp dweller.
Right, but Trump,
Deep
first of
state.
all, Trump isn't going to go after Vivek. He wouldn't. I mean, there wouldn't be any reason to do that, right? Vivek is trying to play nice with Trump, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
So, right, so that wouldn't happen. So, but I mean, that's a good name to have in your back pocket, I guess, if you're worried.
Just call him Deep State Ramaswampy.
There you go. That's perfect. That's perfect. And the thing is, why it's good is because like it'd be difficult because I was thinking when you're trying to think of a nickname for someone who has like a not American name, you have to be careful because you don't want to get hit with the racist stick.
Oh,
right?
really?
But that doesn't hit that note.
It doesn't really.
It doesn't hit the racist note at
Yeah.
all. So
You got to be, if the nickname is like animal related, oh man, big
right,
trouble.
or so, yeah, you got to be careful, right? If it's making fun of the fact that he has kind of a not American sounding
Right.
name, but no, that's perfect.
Anything having to do with a tan or darker
Right.
skin, like, no.
Right. Yeah,
Gonna
see,
get
you can say
big
deep state.
trouble.
Just don't say dark state. If you said dark state, you might be in a
Oh yeah.
Right. Philip Coggins for $20. Thanks so much. Says Oliver Anthony is the reason why Lenin thought there has to be a vanguard party to usher the working class into socialism. True. That is very true. Yeah, because they thought that all these working class people are just too stupid or they'll never agree. So you basically have to have the elite, force it on them. Which was essentially, I think that is. Even if Hassan won't admit it, I'm pretty sure that is his position, judging from the other video I saw of him, where he was talking about how much he doesn't like direct democracy and how the government should basically just force change onto the local populace without their vote or what.
Well,
they
that
wanna
doesn't
do.
sound like fascism to me.
Yeah, exactly. Hitch Waxer for $20. Thanks so much. Says minimum wage takes should consider different labor markets. Good policy. Wait, let me read this again. Minimum wage takes should consider different labor markets. Good policy should be at least neutral whether labor is scarce or not, right? Low skill will only be priced out of a job when labor is plentiful, I think, Adam. What do you think?
Look, I agree, obviously, and I am trying to persuade Sitch on the on the dual minimum wage, which would be a minimum wage for big business.
That's not what he was talking about. There'd be different policies.
No, across the country, obviously. I don't look. I'm not necessarily in favor of a $15 minimum wage. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I really haven't looked into the policy enough. So, but I do agree that you can't, like a minimum wage in California needs to be larger than a minimum wage in some place like Idaho. Yeah.
Right, but so the question was, should there be a minimum wage policy that would exist at all times, regardless of whether labor is scarce or surplus at the moment? I think we generally have that because it's just government is slow moving. It's kind of hard to legislate something quickly like that. And that'd be the opponents would say, well, that's why you shouldn't have these minimum wage laws, because the market can react quickly, and the market can react as the market reacts. So maybe the answer would be you would have to have a minimum wage policy that is like the baseline, like whatever that's why it's minimum wage, right? It's supposed to be like the baseline thing that can just grow upon that. Like, even in the best labor market, right, or the worst labor market, you wouldn't want it to get below this amount. That would be, I guess that would have to be how you'd structure the policy. So,
I mean, I would, if I was like a powerful politician or something, I would push to try this dual minimum wage in some city or something just to see if it was effective. So, but no, the dual minimum wage answers that problem, because obviously you would have small businesses would have no minimum wage. So if there was a
it would be an interesting experiment.
Employment. Yeah,
right.
Like,
it would be an interesting experiment. I would like to see it just to see what would happen. Sure.
My theory is you'd get some kind of innovations, starting of small businesses that people who wanted to start small businesses but had this minimum wage thing as a barrier to entry. If that doesn't happen, then fuck it, obviously.
Okay.
But if it all of a sudden you've got, let's say you have 50% more new business activity in that city, you'd be like, okay, well, something's going on here, right?
Cole G for $20. Thank you, Cole G. Says, Ben and Jerry's, do you guys not remember right-wingers losing their mind over Nike, Budweiser, Gillette, etc.? Because ultimately people they don't like politically were being advertised to. Both sides do this. But of course. I don't think I've ever disagreed with that. The Gillette thing I don't remember the Gillette thing going anywhere. Did it? I mean, I remember it happening. I remember people talking about it, but I don't remember it really taking off. I know like the Budweiser thing took off, obviously the biggest. I think Target kind of took off. I didn't follow the Nike stuff so much. I don't know how successful it was. But I mean, yeah, people don't like. It's interesting because I grew up in a time where the thought process, I guess, for business and products was they were all run by greedy capitalists that don't give a shit about anything but making money, and they were generally politically neutral because they didn't want to offend anyone. That was kind of like the world that I grew up in. So it's kind of wild. Now, I don't know if I was just wrong, and maybe because I was in a left-wing bubble, I wasn't seeing it, but it's kind of wild
Arnak thinks we're going to be married.
To see now,
but after I declined his offer, he
where
came
everything
back that night
is
and
so
kidnapped me.
politically.
My brother tried
divisive.
to stop him, but Arnak was too strong. He slew my brother and then brought me here, my poor brother. Adventurer, could you escort me out of the Dark Cloud Pinnacle, please? I need to get back to Thalia. She must be worried sick about me.
Because before the current culture war, I remember the big thing, the big culture war issue for a brand was Chick-fil-A, because they were against gay marriage or something. The owner wasn't the owner donating money against gay marriage, and everyone was freaking out about that.
I know Hobby Lobby was doing something with birth control.
Hobby Lobby, yeah, that was another one. Hobby Lobby, yeah. So, but yeah, no, they all do it. I mean, ideally, I would think that I think these companies should be as politically neutral as possible. So, Twitter Socks for $20. Thanks so much. Twitter Socks says Budweiser has lost like $400 million in value, so it looks like boycotting from the right works. I mean, it definitely can work. Yeah, people get on board with it.
Well, and what I was saying was not dissimilar than the Dylan Mulvaney thing, because what made that work was everyone just hated Dylan. Everyone on the right hated Dylan Mulvaney as a personality. You know, obviously I think if Blair White came out and did the same thing with Budweiser, you get some people that would be offended by it, but a lot of people would step in and say, look, she's a conservative. Like,
right.
Yeah. So that would play in, but with the Ben and Jerry's, I'm talking about Donald Trump doing the exact same thing. There's a segment of the population that hates Donald Trump more than people hate Dylan Mulvaney, obviously.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So,
the Dylan Mulvaney thing is interesting because it shows the power of
a hated person endorsing your brand. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It shows that, but it also shows the power of the narrative against trans children, how powerful that is among the right, because that kind of crept up out of nowhere. Like, it crept up very quickly, and it shows how powerful the think of the children argument still is and still exists in our country. And I do think that is going to shellac the left if they're not paying attention to that. They don't change their tune on this.
They aren't.
I mean, they don't seem to be. So they seem to be trying to fight against it. But
I did a rare thing, and I searched our name and saw some people did some response videos to our Crystal and Kyle talk, and I didn't have time to watch them, but I was curious about them.
Right.
Look, all of these videos got like 45 views, like 60 views. So
I
it's
know,
not,
of course, yeah.
Look, I can't respond to someone that's obviously.
Wow, we're too big to respond to these people with the 40 views. Yes, pass me another crumpet, Adam. I said, pass me another fudge round, Adam.
Should we
give me some more
them?
fudge rounds?
Look, I don't know that our audience could. I mean, I just.
No, I don't want to respond.
It's like punching down. Look, not only that, we're signal boosting their nonsense.
There you go.
So I don't.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I don't know that responding is the
I agree.
correct course of action. So.
Mark Twain's Revenge. Thank you so much, Mark Twain's Revenge, our surrogate uncle, for the $100.
Wow, thanks.
Says, upon the American political landscape stands one bastion gleaming and true amongst the chaos. Its blocks are of liberalism, its mortar of the Enlightenment. One flag flies proudly upon the parapet. The flag of centrism. Glorious is the bulwark. Glory to centrism. Well, thank you, Mark Twain's Revenge.
I do
That's
love
beautiful.
it. Yeah.
You're living up to the name. Mark Twain's Revenge, another $10 says, I'm claiming the role of centrist propagandist. I shall continue to put forward centrist copy. Well, thank you, Mark Twain's Revenge. I will assign you officially. You can be part of the official S-Class Army. You can be the chief centrist propagandist. I salute you. I salute you. And I'm stealing you, by the way. I stole you from A-Team. You're in S-Class now.
Impossible.
Okay. Twitter Sucks for $20. Thank you, Twitter Sucks. Says, quote, Oliver Anthony is the wrong kind of poor. Hassan, this entire video. True. J-Mac, our surrogate father, thanks so much for the 50 gifted memberships.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jay.
J-Mac. Thank you.
Always a great supporter of the show.
Twitter Sucks for $20 says, no, Adam, Hassan does care about people getting $15 an hour. Just ignore the fact that he only cares about it because it means his fans will give him more money. Wait, who am I kidding? Hassan's fans don't have jobs. Bam!
Wow.
And Twitter Sucks for another $20. Thanks so much, Twitter Sucks, our surrogate god uncle, making it rain. Today says going after children will be the downfall of the left, period. Parents aren't monolith voters on the left or the right. Women overwhelmingly vote Democrat and men overwhelmingly vote Republican.
Right.
Yeah.
It is weird. The kind of hubris of people that want to go in there and indoctrinate other people's kids with their political beliefs. Just so grotesque.
So a lot of racists got very upset at Oliver here because he said on Fox News, he said, "We are the melting pot of the worlds, and that we need to learn to harness our diversity to make us strong instead of making it divide us and using it as a political, football."
Yeah, great.
What an enlightened base centrist. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. I love this guy.
And then Matt Walsh deleted his retweet.
There you go. There you go. Matt Walsh is like, oh shit, what did I do? Thank you for sending me that clip, Solitaire. That's funny.
Tremendous amount of animosity from liberals towards like white people that are poor, country folk, people living in.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't feel like he was getting racialist on this, but then
as
soon as
build up the other poor guys and instill class consciousness rather than shit on a different kind of poor person. Having said all of that, there's also this idea that like possibly due to a tremendous amount of animosity from liberals towards like white people that are poor, country folk, people living in rural areas, right? That there's so much animosity towards like those people from bi-coastal liberals who are like, well, they voted for it, they should fucking perish or whatever, that people are hypersensitive to any kind of criticism that anyone from Appalachia is receiving, okay? Especially in this community. But like, just because someone is from this area or someone is genuinely poor or someone is, a working class person doesn't change the reality that they can't be fucking dumbass. Of course they can. You know what I mean? Like,
I love this is insane levels of gaslighting. Hassan's audience must be this like retarded. I mean, they must be because they watch Hassan regularly. But this amount of gaslighting is insane. He's just so far spent the whole video crapping on this guy and shitting on this guy. And he's like, listen, it's the liberals, these coastal elitist liberals that have this disdain for white working class people.
Right.
Not me, the socialist, who just spent the last 10 minutes doing that very thing.
Right. Yeah. Not me, the coastal elite who lives in California.
Yeah, like what the fuck is he talking about? This is insane. This is a joke? This is a troll? Is his audience stupid?
Yeah. They're not paying attention.
Someone in the chat, in his chat says, "You're currently shitting on poor people. I'd be 20 times hotter if my country didn't suck so bad with healthcare." I don't know how to interpret that comment, but all right.
Like, it's fine. Or we got folks in the street ain't got nothing to eat. Let's hear that part.
You think that was like a trans comment?
I don't know what. I have no clue what the comment was, but.
I wish politicians look out for minors and not just minors.
Buffoon, if you hear that. This is so perfect. I'm sorry. You're a fucking buffoon if you hear this and you're like, bars. Okay, this is what the rural people feel like. Okay, well, they're fucking stupid then. Okay, I'm sorry. Whoever fucking believes this is dumb. Like,
there you go. You're all fucking dumb.
Well,
I'm gonna solidify class consciousness because you're all fucking dumb.
I'm not sure he even understands this.
No, he doesn't understand the argument. Well, no, I think he does. He understands the argument. He just thinks it's not true. He doesn't think that there's some swath of people out there that are basically just living off welfare that are lazy.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming that's his belief.
Right.
He hasn't told us because he's not really making an argument. He's just saying, you're fucking retarded.
Yeah, lol.
Retard.
Yeah.
This is awesome, but not in the way that I guess.
I'm gonna go back for just a second. there's just some nice symbolism for Hassan saying all this while you just have like a dog butt right next to his head in frame.
Oh yeah.
Right? Just right. That's the universe really laying deep.
Right.
Laying deep into this, providing some nice symbolism.
Yeah.
I guess some people would appreciate it. I find it awesome for a different reason. Taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Like,
okay, we're 11 minutes and 30 seconds into this video. He spent like 95% of his talking on this one verse. Like this one, like, couple of sentences, ignoring the whole rest of the song. This is all that matters. This one part of the song, Adam. I don't know. I don't even know what the rest of the song says.
Yeah, well, I looked up fudge rounds like 2 hours ago. So
right.
Is he finally curious enough to figure out what that line means?
Listen, he's stun locked on fudge rounds, okay? On fudge rounds. He really wants a fudge round, so he's stun locked on it.
Like, what the fuck? What are you saying? You can't on the one hand be like, we need more government assistance for the poor, and then simultaneously be like, but not that kind of government assistance. No fudge rounds. What are you, Michael Bloomberg?
I mean, you wait a minute. You literally can make that argument. You literally can say, I think the government should be doing X, but not doing Y because one thing is bad and corrupt and one thing is good. But you literally can say. What do you mean? What do you mean you can't say that? That's everyone's argument. That's your argument, Hassan. You're going to say, listen, I think the government should be giving money to poor people, but you shouldn't be subsidizing corporations for stock buybacks. Well, you can't say that, Hassan. How dare you say the government can do one thing and not do another thing? What? Oh, you can either say the government can do everything or do nothing. That's the only position you can have.
Yeah, no, he's not making a compelling case here at all.
What the fuck is this? You know who has this? You know who has this attitude? You know who has unironically tried to make policy around exactly what he's saying? Michael fucking Bloomberg, who also was a Republican, by the way. Okay? Miss me with this bullshit. Also, he's shitting on short kings, which I don't like either.
Wait, what was
unironically try to make policy around exactly what he's saying? Michael fucking Bloomberg.
Michael Bloomberg really wants poor people to drink less soda. The use of SNAP benefits to purchase food of little or no nutritional value not only contradicts the intent of the program, it also effectively subsidizes serious public health epidemic, the request said. Restriction on food benefit purchases have been a component of SNAP since its inception, and consumers and retailers are already accustomed to purchase restrictions. You know, it's funny. Does Hassan not understand that that's like a very left-wing position?
I guess not. I was thinking the same thing.
Like, he's saying that Michael Bloomberg is a secret, like, conservative. This is an incredibly left-wing position. This is like, well, the government's already going to be nanny state, then might as well make sure that the nanny state's making you eat healthy, right? Like, that's very interesting.
Michael Bloomberg is a Democrat. Why is he calling him a Republican?
I don't know. I mean, he might have been a Republican in the past. I'm not sure, but
it's a Democratic Party.
Yeah, when this was happening, he was a Democrat. Yes.
Did he switch parties? I don't know that he switched parties.
I don't know. Look it up. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck. If he didn't, then I literally have no clue what the song is referencing at all. But no, because remember, Mike Bloomberg was the guy who, it wasn't just for snaps. Didn't he want to make big gulps illegal in New York City or something? Because I remember everyone was like crapping on him for doing that. But
he ran in the Democratic. He ran for president in the Democratic Party in 2020. That's why I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? He's a Republican. Is Hassan really that out of it? He doesn't know the difference between a Democrat and a Republican?
Well, he's a socialist, so he doesn't know the difference. But
well, he literally said look, remember what you just said about how this policy is a Democratic policy? Doesn't it make more sense that a Democrat would propose this policy?
Yeah, I mean,
it was the Republicans that were losing their mind. Oh, the Democrats want to regulate how much soda you can drink.
Mm-hmm.
Where was Hassan through all of that?
Right.
He was in the kitchen making dinner, making nuggies.
Mm-hmm. Michael Bloomberg ran as Republican or Democrat.
I'm on his Wikipedia page.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah.
So it says he switched at some point.
Oh, it does?
So it says Bloomberg was a lifelong Democrat until 2001, when he switched the Republican Party to run for mayor, and then he switched to an independent in 2007, and then he switched back to being a Democrat.
Okay.
In 2018, so he's been all over the place.
Well, I was going to say, in 2020, he ran in the Democratic primary.
Obviously,
That's only
yes,
3 years ago.
Yes, we all know that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess he could have switched in the last 3 years. But when he introduced this policy,
this was a
he
Democrat
was a
idea.
Democrat.
Right, and the idea is obviously, I would, if you were to ask me if this is a left or right wing idea, and I didn't know who advocated for it, I would assume it's a left. So.
Of course, yeah. The big nanny state wants to come in and tell you how much soda you can drink.
Though to be fair, there were. I mean, this policy was kind of made fun of universally. It wasn't just the right make fun of this. I mean, the left was making fun of this too. I remember.
No.
You know, Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart and like all the left wing talk show hosts were all making fun of and thought this policy was stupid. But,
I love soda.
well, apparently so does everyone else, which is why they don't want this policy implemented.
Soda's like my favorite thing in the world.
It's like terrible for you. I don't care.
Who also was a Republican, by the way. Okay? Missed me with this bullshit. Also, he's shitting on short kings, which I don't like either.
Lord, it's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world.
His voice sounds like you. I think your brain is broken.
These rich men know the rich men, Lord knows they all just want to have total control.
Again, like, who does... I'll give you another example. His only anger with the rich men of Richmond is that they care about pedophilia and defending pedophilia more than they care about, like, you know, uplifting poor people, but then targets welfare policies, turns around, and then says the only thing that they're doing is they want to know what you think, they want to know what you do. Lord knows they just want to have total control, but then he's, in his perfect world, he dreams of a world where, like, he gets to dictate the terms of welfare, who gets it, and also what they can purchase with it, which ironically is just, again, American consciousness, which is now a goal to not necessarily uplift anybody, really, not even yourself, mind you, okay? Not even yourself, not even your neighbors, but instead to implement a level of control to the people that you feel are opposing you in the political process. We don't even care about, like, fucking health.
Okay, so first of all, irony has died yet again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hassan is complaining about the tribal idea that you are more interested in, you know, controlling your opposition, right, than helping anyone.
I know.
It's
Oh
literally
my
been this
God.
whole video. This is insane to me. But Hassan doesn't get it. He literally doesn't understand any of this. And I think you said this earlier. You know, I don't think that Oliver here, or most people, especially most people in the Republican Party, they don't want to live in a world where, and I say it's most people overall, or at least most non-socialists, even Democrats and liberals, most people don't want to live in a world where they're required a handout.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
They want to earn their keep.
Yes, people generally want to earn their keep. And so he's like trying to say like, oh, this line is hypocritical because on one hand, he's criticizing the folks in Washington for trying to control what you think and do, but then he's criticizing, you know, people who don't, you know, someone eating short rounds and being fat on welfare, right? And he thinks that this is a contradiction. When it's not a contradiction, because again, the point is that he was trying to make is that they're wrong people, people that don't deserve it, people that don't need it, people that are
Right.
lazy, right? Theoretically, under his argument.
Worldview, yeah.
Yeah. Are getting, you know, welfare while people who do need it are starving. And his solution is, I would imagine, if you ask him, he doesn't want welfare for himself. He wants to be able to scrape out a living for him and his family. And
He wants a raise.
Right. He wants to be able to, you know, he doesn't say, oh, I want welfare. I want more welfare, right? He's like, I want to be able to work and get paid fairly for what I work for. That's
Right.
nothing to do. That's not a contradiction. That's nothing to do with complaining about the government, you know, theoretically controlling what you do or what you say. At least from the respect that he's referring to, which I imagine he's talking about, like woke shit. But
most people would be able to. I mean, it would be a giant pay increase if they just didn't have to pay taxes. I mean, that's kind of the point he's making.
well, I guess, but this is why it would be very interesting. Like if Hassan actually had a conversation with him to just try to figure out what is his actual worldview. Like we're trying to judge this from a song.
Right.
A song is a piece of art that is going to use hyperbolic language in simplistic structure to paint a picture in an artistic format, right? It's not like you're sitting down and have like an hour-long conversation, a 2-hour-long conversation where you really flesh out this guy's worldview. And Hassan could totally at least try to sit down with this guy and say, well, what exactly are your worldviews? Here's where I agree with you. Here's where I disagree with you. It seems like that'd be so much better content than this garbage.
Oh yeah, it'd be amazing content. But look, Hassan doesn't care about making amazing content.
Okay. He wants the chair stream, I know, but
that's one of the things that gets interesting. I mean, as you grow as a content creator, you really have a lot more ability and leverage to make amazing content.
You have sought me out,
right?
Or
it's kind of sad that Hassan doesn't do that.
No matter, you are here now, and so
your
journey will begin.
Not sad for us.
Many
well, I mean, he
facets
did.
Make up a being.
He did stream with AOC, so I mean,
some of these
gotta give him credit for that. But
traditions. Others,
do we though?
We can only hope exist within ourselves.
I mean, it would be pretty fun.
I shall test some of the facets within you. If you pass, then you shall become stronger. If you fail, then you will realize the vastness of the nether. The first is a test of faith.
Walk with the earth, Mother.
It is not until faced with unforeseen adversity that we begin to see how strong our spirits are. You took the leap of faith, even though you had no guarantees that you would survive. Your mind is open, and your spirit is prepared for what is to come. If you are willing, then the next of your tests is ready. I'm pleased to see your courage remain steadfast in light of what you've already done. Since your faith is intact, the time has come to test your body. First is a test of endurance. Go with friends to the Rogue Feather Den west of Freewind Post. Make your way to the depths of their lair and destroy their foodstuffs. By then, you should have provoked their fury, and if you're able to survive long enough, Grenka Bloodscreech herself will come for you. Kill her and bring me her claw to complete your test.
Amazing content.
You have sought me out,
right?
Or
it's kind of sad that Hassan doesn't do that. Amazing content.
You have sought me out,
right?
Or
it's kind of sad that Hassan.
Do we though?
If you realize the
Fun to stream with AOC. I'm not gonna lie. Look, my dream
I sense a
AOC
energy
stream.
emanating from the hoof. I have no doubt that we will discover surprising new information about the centaur from its study. My thanks, adventurer. Now I must begin to decipher the mysteries you have brought to me.
Thank you, adventurer. Deep in my bones, I knew that she would find her way back to me. She told me of your bravery and how you helped her escape. These items belong to her brother. I know she would want you to have them.
Great Spirit Totem, this is dire news indeed. I must begin to plan for whatever may come. Adventurer, as promised, here is your reward for your brave service. Ha! Well, this is excellent news. I was starting to think that he would never be brought to justice. Here you are, adventurer, and thanks. News of Arnak's foul deeds boiled my blood. My brother Nautica is stationed at Ghostwalker Post over in Desolus. I'd like to ask you, could you give this report to him for me? A year has passed since the last time I wrote. There has been unusual centaur activity since then, and he should be informed. Journey to Stonetalon Mountain north of the crossroads, and then head west into Charred Vale. From there, head south into Desolus. There you will find a road going south to Ghostwalker Post.
Where would you like to fly to? We shall meet again. Where would you like to fly to?
You know, AOC finally looks, I don't know what happens. The simulation is real. God intervenes. Like, I don't know how this happens, but we're streaming with AOC.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, Sitch is going to call her a racist. Like, it's just inevitable.
Oh, that's what you're worried? You're worried you're worried that we're going to have your political waifu on and I'm going to call her a racist.
You're gonna. I know it's going to happen. It's totally going to happen.
Well, no, see, what you should be actually worried about.
I mean, she is a big fat racist. I mean...
This is what you should actually be worried about. Okay. We ever had AOC on the stream. I'm staring into her big, large, crazy eyes.
Her big brown eyes.
Her big limbo rings. And he's like, "Can you move the camera down a little bit?" No. So, Adam is completely, enamored with. You can see Adam's wife, like off camera, growing angrier by the second. She's ready to like swat the back of his head with like a broom.
AOC's limbo ring game is not good, so just FYI.
Okay. So while Adam is like in love, my foot is gonna be like, like tapping, like crazy, right? I'm gonna be like Roger Rabbit when he's doing shaving a haircut. Because there's one thing I need to ask. I'm like dying to ask AOC, but I know if I do, the conversation will end. Okay. And that is, I have to ask her. I'm like, I want you to tell me the full timeline.
Of January 6th.
January 6th. I want you to tell me exactly the full timeline of what they said to you, what you did, how you ended up in What's-Her-Face's office stealing the shoes. I want to know the full fucking timeline. And I'm going to ask some very, very clear follow-up questions. Okay, like, well, why did you go to this place?
It's going to be just like Jimmy Dore. Oh, we're really going to debate this? No
debate. Listen,
January 6th? Are you kidding?
No debate. There's no debate. Okay, I just want to know. Like, wait a minute. Okay, like, well, Miss AOC, why did you end up like I'm a little
AOC
confused.
is gonna run like it's January 6th. She's gonna be out of here so fast.
I'm gonna be like, Miss AOC, I'm just a little confused because I thought that I heard in an interview. Am I mistaken? I heard that you said that Capitol Security told you to go to this specific location, and you didn't go there. Why did you decide to not listen to Capitol Security? Like, what was the thought process there?
She's going to be tying up her running shoes, and she's going to be off the Sitch and Adam show so fast. It's gonna be Jimmy Dore.
I'm going through a tunnel. I can't hear you. Getting disconnected.
It's gonna be Jimmy Dore all over again.
Yeah.
Look, I still think Jimmy Dore would come back on one day.
All right. I didn't even have a response to that.
Were we watching a video? Come on, we
were.
gotta get back to the video.
Healthcare. We don't care about any of that shit. We don't care about social safety nets. We only care about making sure we own the other side. Implementing the same level of control that I feel is being implemented on me by those, by the pedophiles on the other side. That's it.
See, he's so dumb. Republicans aren't against social safety nets. They're against social safety nets paying money to loafers, to people who are lazy, who are taking advantage of the system.
Right.
I mean, shouldn't everyone be against that?
You would think. You'd hope.
Yeah. It's just such a dereliction of what their position is. Yeah, a straw man.
What you think, wanna know what you do, and then I don't think you know, but I know that you do, cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, cause the rich men, north the rich men.
Look, he's rocking out now.
Yeah, he knows.
He
it's a good
can't even
song.
stop.
Right.
He's going to be singing this song to his mom when he's getting his nuggies delivered.
Right. But I mean, the issue and the perception is, whether you agree with it or not, Hassan, the perception is that people feel like I've been working all my life, I'm working hard, I'm getting, very little money.
What brings you to Oath? Take this refined and purified incendia powder to 1,000 Needles and toss it on the sacred fire of life. It is located in the dark cloud pinnacle on an isolated needle where they bury their dead. The enchantment that I have weaved into the incendia powder will summon Arikara to you, adventurer. I fear she may be stalking Cairn Bloodhoof. Too much Tauren lore has changed, and I fear this has angered Arikara. Move quickly before all is lost, adventurer.
Paying like a lot to the government, and I'm not seeing, like, from the perception, I'm not seeing, a value from the government. The government doesn't seem to be supporting me, right? Whether it actually is or not, the perception is I don't see it producing value, and that's kind of the anger that he's kind of talking about here, which Hassan doesn't want to address or talk about because go touch grass.
That's another wild part about the tax part is just what are you talking about? If the people you're talking about are just making no money, well, they're trust me, they're not getting taxed the shit either. It is.
What a dumbass. You still pay SSI insurance. Look, I worked shit jobs where I was making no money and the taxes were unbelievable.
Of course.
Yeah.
Hassan doesn't know. He has no clue. He has literally no clue what he's talking about here.
Yeah.
Yep. Because in Hassan's mind, it's funny. He's sort of unwittingly playing into the very thing that Oliver is complaining about. Because he's talking about working poor.
Yeah, because he's the rich man.
Well, no, but not just that. But he's complaining about the working poor being basically subsidizing.
Taxed to death, yes.
Taxed to death, and basically subsidizing poor people who are the lazy poor, right?
Yeah.
And so from Hassan's view, it's the lazy poor, they don't have any money except for government assistance, so they're not paying taxes. So that's why he doesn't
he empathizes with a lazy piece of shit.
So that's why Hassan doesn't even understand what Oliver's even trying to get at here. Because he's he's like, what do you mean? They don't pay any taxes. He's not talking about those people, Hassan. It's
that makes it even worse.
Yes.
In many respects, identical to what we watched yesterday from Erie, Pennsylvania, of the Trump rally that the More Perfect Union guy went to. And he talked to these people who were so close to getting it, right? But yet we're so far away. So, also, why does man have a...
It's funny because you saw